The high desert wind carried dust and the smell of dying grass across Cole Maddox's ranch, like it had every morning for the past 11 years. He stood on the porch watching the sun bleed orange across the horizon, coffee going cold in his tin cup, thinking about absolutely nothing. That's how he preferred it. Thinking led to remembering, and remembering led to the whiskey bottle he'd sworn off 2 years back. The ranch sat 40 miles from anything resembling civilization, just the way Cole wanted it. 500 acres of scrubland that barely supported his cattle, a main house that leaked when it rained, and enough silence to drown in. Perfect. He was dumping the coffee when he saw them. Two figures on the eastern road, moving slow. One tall, one small. Cole squinted against the glare. Travelers were rare out here. The desperate or the lost, usually both. He went inside, buckled on his gun belt more from habit than concern, and waited. 20 minutes later, they reached the gate. A woman in a faded blue dress, dust-caked and thin, holding the hand of a boy who couldn't be more than 6 or 7. The kid's eyes were too wide, too watchful. The woman kept her face turned slightly away, her hair falling forward. Cole walked down from the porch, boots crunching gravel. "Help you?" His voice came out rougher than intended. Been a while since he'd talked to anyone. The woman didn't look up. "We're looking for work. I can cook, clean, mend. I'm strong. I don't eat much." "Don't need help. Please." Her voice cracked on the word. "Just for a few weeks, until we can move on. I won't be trouble." The boy stared at Cole with dark, solemn eyes. His clothes hung loose on his frame. Cole felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. "Where are you headed?" "Anywhere that isn't here." She still hadn't looked at him directly. Cole studied them both. The woman's hands were trembling despite her rigid posture. The boy swayed slightly, exhausted. They'd been walking a long time. "Bunkhouse is empty," he heard himself say. "You can stay there. I'll find work for you." The woman's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you. Thank you, Don't thank me yet. Works hard, pays fair, but not generous." He gestured toward the small building behind the barn. "That's yours. Well, pumps between here and there, outhouse around back. I don't tolerate theft or laziness." "You won't have either." She started toward the bunkhouse, pulling the boy along. "What's your name?" Cole called after her. She paused without turning. "Lena. Lena Cross. This is my nephew, Danny." "You got family, Lena Cross?" "Not anymore." They walked away before he could ask anything else. The first week, Lena kept her distance. She cooked breakfast and dinner without being asked, left plates on the porch for Cole to find. The food was simple but good, better than the slop he'd been making for himself. She mended a pile of shirts he'd given up on, fixed the leak in the roof over the bunkhouse. She moved through tasks with mechanical efficiency, like she was trying to make herself indispensable. Danny helped where he could, carrying water, feeding chickens, collecting eggs. The kid barely spoke, just watched everything with those serious dark eyes, like he was constantly calculating escape routes. Cole left them alone. It was easier that way. On the 8th day, he saw Lena splitting wood behind the bunkhouse. Her technique was terrible. She'd hit herself with the handle before the week was out. He grabbed his own axe and walked over. "You're doing it wrong." She jumped, nearly dropping the axe. "I'm sorry, Relax, just showing you how not to break your arm." He positioned himself at the chopping block. "It's about leverage, not strength. Let the axe do the work." He demonstrated, splitting 3 logs in quick succession. "See? Smooth motion, don't fight it." Lena nodded, still not quite looking at him. Her hair always fell forward, always hiding the right side of her face. "Your turn." She hefted the axe awkwardly. Cole stepped behind her, adjusting her grip. "Feet wider, bend your knees, there, now." As she raised the axe, the wind gusted. Her hair blew back. Cole saw the mark, a handprint. Burned into her right cheekbone, the flesh still pink and angry, despite obvious healing time. 4 fingers and a thumb pressed hard enough to scar deep. The kind of mark that required sustained pressure, intentional. Lena saw him staring and dropped the axe. Her hand flew to her face, hair cascading down to hide it again. "I'll finish this later." She practically ran toward the bunkhouse. Cole stood there, rage building in his chest like a wildfire. He'd seen a lot in his 43 years, seen men hurt each other in every way imaginable. But branding a woman like livestock, that was a special kind of evil. He walked back to the house and sat on the porch, trying to breathe through the anger. It wasn't his business. She'd asked for work, not rescue. Getting involved meant complications, and complications meant the kind of trouble he'd moved out here to avoid. But that mark, Jesus Christ, that mark, Chut. 2 days passed. Lena avoided him, staying near the bunkhouse except for meals. Danny sensed the tension and went even quieter than before. On the third day, Cole was fixing fence when he heard hoofbeats. 3 riders coming fast from the direction of town. His hand moved to his gun automatically. They reined up 50 feet from where he stood. 3 men in dusty trail clothes, guns visible on their hips. The one in front had a silver badge pinned to his vest. Sheriff Marcus Webb. Cole had met him exactly once, found him to be a politician in lawman's clothing. "Help you, Sheriff?" Webb smiled without warmth. "Heard you got visitors, Maddox, a woman and a boy. Got a cook who needed work. What's it to you?" "That woman belong to you?" Cole's jaw tightened. "She works for me. Doesn't belong to anyone." "See, that's where you're wrong." Webb leaned forward in his saddle. "Lena Cross is wanted for theft. Took something valuable from a prominent citizen in redemption. Man wants his property back." "What'd she steal?" "Herself." One of the other riders grinned. "And the kid." Cole's hand moved closer to his gun. "Lady doesn't want to go back. Kid neither. Maybe you should accept that and ride on." Webb's smile vanished. "That's not how this works. You're harboring a criminal. I can arrest you along with her if you're feeling stupid. You got papers? A warrant? Don't need one for a woman who ran from a legal agreement." "What kind of agreement?" "The kind that's none of your damn business." Webb straightened in his saddle. "Send her out, Maddox. Don't make this ugly." Behind Cole, the bunkhouse door opened. Lena stood there, Danny pressed against her side. She looked terrified but resigned. "It's all right," she called out, voice shaking. "I'll go." "The hell you will." Cole didn't take his eyes off Webb. "This is my land, Sheriff. She's under my employ. You want to take her? You better have legal cause, and some rich bastard says so doesn't count." Webb's face darkened. "You're making a mistake." "Won't be my first, probably won't be my last." The 3 men sat their horses, hands drifting toward weapons. Cole calculated odds, 3 against 1, but they were bunched up, and he'd always been fast. Probably get 2 before they got him, maybe all 3 if he was lucky. The question was whether he wanted to die over a woman he barely knew. Lena's voice cut through the tension. "Please, just go. I don't want anyone hurt because of me." Webb seized on her words. "See? Lady's got sense, even if you don't." "Lady's scared," Cole said. "Difference between consent and coercion, Sheriff. Thought a lawman would know that." For a long moment, nobody moved. The wind blew dust between them. Finally, Webb spat in the dirt. "This ain't over, Maddox. Victor Hale doesn't forget, and he doesn't forgive. You're protecting her. You're making an enemy you can't afford." "Victor Hale." Cole filed the name away. "He the one who branded her?" Webb's expression confirmed it before his mouth could lie. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Right. Well, you tell Mr. Hale that Lena Cross is under my protection now. He's got a problem with that. He can ride out here himself and we'll discuss it." "You're a fool." "So I've been told. Now get off my land." The 3 men turned their horses and rode off, but Cole knew it wasn't finished. Men like Hale, men rich enough to have sheriffs running errands, didn't just let things go. He turned to find Lena staring at him, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Cole looked at the mark on her face, thinking about all the times he hadn't stood up, all the times he'd looked away because it was easier. "Maybe I'm tired of not knowing people," he said. "Come on, we need to talk." They sat at Cole's kitchen table, the first time Lena had been inside the main house. Danny was outside, throwing rocks at a fence post, staying within eyeshot of the window. Lena's hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she wasn't drinking. Cole waited. He'd learned patience in the army, refined it in the years after. Sometimes silence did the work, words couldn't. Finally, Lena spoke. His name is Victor Hale, owns the Golden Bell Saloon in Redemption, plus half the businesses in town. Maybe more. I don't know the full extent of it. Her voice was flat, reciting facts like testimony. I was working at a boarding house, cleaning rooms, washing linens, barely making enough to feed Danny, but it was honest work. Hale came through one day looking for a woman who'd run out on a debt to him. I didn't know her, couldn't help him, but She paused, fingers tightening on the cup. He noticed me, started coming around, bringing gifts I didn't want, making offers that sounded generous until you heard the conditions. What kind of conditions? The kind where I'd work at his saloon, upstairs. She met Cole's eyes for the first time, defiant. I said no, kept saying no. He didn't like that. Cole felt his anger rising again, but kept his voice level. What happened? He told everyone in town I owed him money, a debt my brother supposedly left when he died. It was a lie. My brother never borrowed a cent from anyone, but Hale had papers, forged but official-looking enough, said I could work off the debt or go to jail for it. I tried to fight it. Went to Sheriff Webb. He laughed in my face, told me debts had to be paid one way or another, said Hale was a respected businessman, and I was nobody. Her laugh was bitter. He was right about that last part. I was desperate. Danny's parents died from fever 2 years ago. I'm all he has. So I agreed to work at the Golden Bell, just serving drinks, just until the fake debt was paid. Hale promised it would only be a few months. She fell silent. Cole waited. It wasn't serving drinks, she finally continued. First night, he made it clear what he expected. When I refused, he had his men hold me down, heated a branding iron in the stove, pressed his hand against it until it was glowing. Her voice started shaking. Then he pressed it against my face. Said I was marked now. Said everyone would know I belonged to him. Cole's hands clenched into fists. How long ago? 3 weeks. I was locked in a room upstairs for 2 days while it festered. Third night, one of the girls, Sarah, her name was Sarah, she helped me escape. Got me out a back window, told me to run and not stop. Lena's eyes glistened. I grabbed Danny from the boarding house and we walked. Stayed off roads, slept in ditches. I thought if we could get far enough away, but they found you anyway. We're marked, both of us. Where can we go that Hale's reach doesn't extend? He owns this whole territory, one way or another. Cole stood, paced to the window. Danny was still throwing rocks, methodical and focused. A kid who'd learned to find safety in routine. Tell me about Hale, Cole said. Everything you know. Lena looked confused. Why? Because running isn't going to work. He'll keep coming. So we need a different strategy. We? Her voice climbed with panic. No, you've already done too much. When he finds out you stood against the sheriff, he'll what? Burn me too? Cole turned from the window. Lena, I've got nothing he can take and nothing I'm afraid to lose. But you and Danny, you deserve better than running forever. You can't fight Victor Hale. Nobody can. He's too rich, too connected. The law protects him. Then we'll find another kind of justice. What are you talking about? Cole sat back down, leaning forward. You said there was another girl, Sarah. She helped you escape. Yes, but so Hale's got multiple women in the same situation. Maybe some who'll talk given the chance. Maybe some who'll testify. Lena was already shaking her head. They're terrified. Most of them don't even remember their real names anymore. Hale breaks them down, makes them dependent. They won't talk. Some might, if they see someone standing up first, if they see it's possible. You're talking about taking down a man who owns an entire town, a man who brands women and gets away with it, a man the sheriff protects. Lena's laugh was half sob. You're talking about suicide. Maybe. Cole met her eyes. Or maybe I'm talking about the only way this ends without you spending the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. They sat in silence. Outside, Danny threw another rock. Why? Lena finally asked. Why would you risk everything for me? For us? Cole thought about that. Thought about his wife Emma and their daughter Rose, buried under cottonwood trees 500 miles east. Thought about the man he'd been before fever took them both, and the hollow thing he'd become after. Thought about all the times in the past 11 years when he could have helped someone and chose silence instead. Because for 11 years I've been dead, he said quietly. Just didn't have the decency to lie down. Maybe it's time to try living again, even if it's dangerous. Lena's expression cracked, tears spilling over. I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. He stood. Now, you got a choice. You can take Danny and keep running. I'll give you supplies, money, a horse, or you can stay, and we do this the hard way. What's the hard way? We make Victor Hale answer for what he's done. All of it. Every woman, every lie, every brand. Cole's voice hardened. We don't just stop him. We destroy him. Lena stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. How? She whispered. I don't know yet, but I've got time to figure it out. He walked to the door, opened it. Think about it. Let me know tomorrow. After she left, Cole stood on the porch watching the sunset. His hand drifted to the gun at his hip, muscle memory from another life. He'd thought he was done with violence, done with causes and crusades. But that mark on Lena's face, that changed things. Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay in the bunkhouse, Danny curled against her side, and tried to imagine a world where Victor Hale faced consequences. She'd seen too much to believe in justice. Justice was for people with money and power. For people like Hale, not people like her. But Cole's eyes had held something she hadn't seen in a long time. Conviction. The stubborn, maybe stupid kind of conviction that got people killed, but also the kind that sometimes, rarely, impossibly, changed things. She touched the mark on her face, feeling the rough scar tissue. Hale had meant it as ownership, a brand that would follow her forever. But maybe it could be something else. Maybe it could be evidence. Aunt Lena? Danny's voice was small in the darkness. Are we staying? She pulled him closer. I don't know, baby. I like it here. Mr. Maddox is nice. He doesn't yell. That simple observation broke something in Lena's chest. A 6-year-old whose standard for nice was doesn't yell. Yeah, she whispered. He's nice. Can we stay? Lena thought about running, thought about looking over her shoulder for the rest of her life. Thought about Danny growing up afraid, always waiting for the next bad thing. Or she could stand, could fight, could probably die trying. But at least she'd die as herself, not as Victor Hale's property. Yeah, she said again. I think we can stay. Morning came with frost on the ground and resolve in Lena's heart. She found Cole in the barn, feeding horses. I'll stay, she said without preamble. But I need you to understand what you're up against. Cole nodded. Tell me. Hale owns the sheriff, the mayor, probably half the council. He's got men, enforcers who do his dirty work. At least a dozen women working for him at any given time, all trapped the same way I was. Fake debts, forged papers, nowhere to turn. She took a breath. He's been doing this for at least 5 years that I know of, maybe longer. And nobody's stopped him. Nobody's tried. The few who might have stood up either got bought off or scared off. There was a prosecutor from the territorial capital who started asking questions 2 years ago. They found him in a ditch with his throat cut, ruled it as robbery. Was it? His wallet and watch were still on him. Cole absorbed that. What about the women who get away? Anyone besides you? Some run. Most get caught and brought back. The ones who make it... Lena's voice dropped. I heard stories. Women who disappeared completely, started over with new names, or turned up dead, hard to know which. Sarah, the one who helped you, she's still there? I don't know, probably. Where else would she go? Cole pulled a worn saddle from a rack, started checking the leather. I need to go to Redemption, see the layout, figure out who might talk. That's insane. Hale will recognize you. Webb probably already told him about yesterday. Good. Let him know I'm not backing down. Cole met her eyes. Lena, if we're doing this, we can't do it halfway. We need evidence, witnesses, something that can't be ignored. That means getting inside his operation. And getting yourself killed. Maybe. But I've been good at not dying for a long time. Figure I'll keep the streak going. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. You're crazy. Yeah, I'm getting that. He slung the saddle over his horse, a big roan gelding with a calm temperament. I'll be back by nightfall. You and Danny stay close to the house. Someone shows up who isn't me, you get to the root cellar and wait. Cole, I know what I'm doing. Do you? She stepped closer. Because I've watched men stand up to Hale before. It never ends well. Then maybe it's time for a different ending. He mounted up, tipped his hat to her, and rode toward a town that wanted him dead. Lena watched until he disappeared over the horizon, then went inside to explain to a 6-year-old why the only good man she'd met in years was riding straight into hell. Redemption wasn't much to look at. A main street lined with weathered storefronts, a church with a crooked steeple, saloons outnumbering everything else. The kind of town that existed to separate cowboys from their wages and travelers from their cash. The Golden Bell sat right in the center, 3 stories of painted yellow boards with red trim. Even at midday, Cole could hear piano music drifting through the doors. He tied his horse at a public rail 2 blocks away and walked, made himself visible, made himself noticed. Let word spread that Cole Maddox was in town and not hiding. The general store first. An older man behind the counter looked up as Cole entered. Help you? Need supplies. Also need information. The man's expression went carefully neutral. Got one. Don't traffic in the other. Cole pulled out a gold coin, more than the supplies were worth, and set it on the counter. Victor Hale. What do people say about him when he's not listening? The storekeeper glanced at the coin, then at Cole, then at the front window. You got a death wish? Just curiosity. Curiosity killed more than cats around here, but the man's hand crept toward the coin. What you want to know? The women who work for him. How's he get them? A long pause. Debts, mostly. Sometimes outright kidnapping dressed up as legal. Sometimes they just disappear from other places and turn up at the Golden Bell. Sheriff never asked questions. How many women we talking about? Dozen right now. Number goes up and down. Some run off, some... He didn't finish. Some what? End up in the town cemetery with rocks for markers. Cole felt cold settle in his stomach. How long's this been going on? Since Hale showed up 7, 8 years ago, came with money, bought the saloon, started expanding. Used to be other businesses could compete. Now they can't. He undercuts them, drives them out, buys the property. Anyone who complains has accidents. Why doesn't anyone from outside step in? The storekeeper laughed bitterly. You think territorial government cares about one town? They got their hands full with Indian troubles and railroad disputes. Long as taxes get paid and complaints stay quiet, they don't look close. Cole picked up the coin, set down 2 more. I need names. Women who worked for Hale and got away. Anyone who might talk. You really do have a death wish. Names. The storekeeper wrote on a scrap of paper, hands shaking. These are just rumors, people heard about. I ain't saying they're alive or where they might be. Cole took the paper. 5 names, 3 with locations listed nearby. One more thing, Cole said. They're a doctor in town. Someone who might examine injuries without running to Hale? Doc Morrison. 3 blocks east above the barber shop. He's honest but scared. Most folks are. Cole bought his supplies, flour, coffee, ammunition, and left. He could feel eyes watching from every window, word spreading like wildfire. The stranger asking about Hale. The fool who didn't know better. Let them watch. Oh. Doc Morrison was in his 60s, thin and tired-looking. His office smelled like carbolic and old blood. You Maddox? He asked, before Cole could introduce himself. Word travels fast. In a town this size, word travels instantly. Morrison gestured to a chair. You got a hurt woman out at your place, one with Hale's mark on her. How'd you know? Because I treated the burn when it was fresh. Hale brought her in, said she'd had an accident, stood right there while I worked, making sure I didn't ask questions. Morrison's hands shook as he poured whiskey into 2 glasses. I've seen a lot of things I wish I hadn't. How many women has he marked? That I know of, 4, but I suspect there's more I never saw. Cole leaned forward. Would you testify to that, if it came to it? Morrison laughed, hollow and defeated. Testify to who? Webb? The territorial marshal who's on Hale's payroll? Maybe the federal government that doesn't give a damn about what happens out here? If there was a way, if there was a chance of it mattering. The doctor drank his whiskey in one swallow. I'm 63 years old, Mr. Maddox. I've got maybe 5 good years left if I'm lucky. I always told myself I'd stand up when it counted, but every time it counted, I found a reason not to. Too dangerous, too complicated, not my fight. He refilled his glass. So no, I wouldn't testify. Because I'm a coward, and cowards don't change just because someone asks nicely. Cole stood. If you change your mind, I won't. But as Cole reached the door, Morrison called out. The woman, Lena, how is she? Surviving. Tell her... Morrison paused. Tell her I'm sorry, for all the good that does. Cole left without responding. Sorry didn't unmake brands or erase scars. He spent the rest of the afternoon moving through redemption, asking quiet questions, gathering fragments of truth. A bartender who saw too much. A prostitute who'd watched friends disappear. A stable hand who'd helped load bodies onto wagons in the middle of the night. Everyone had a story. Nobody would tell it officially. By sunset, Cole had names, dates, patterns, enough to sketch the outline of Hale's operation, but nowhere near enough to prove it. He was heading back to his horse when 4 men stepped out of an alley. Not Webb and his deputies this time. These were Hale's personal enforcers, harder men, meaner, the kind who enjoyed the work. The one in front was massive, scarred, grinning. Mr. Hale wants a word. Cole's hand moved toward his gun. I'm busy. Wasn't a request. Still busy. The big man's grin widened. We can do this easy or we can do it hard. Either way, you're coming. Cole calculated. 4 against 1, tight quarters, civilians around, bad odds for a gunfight. Lead the way, he said. They walked him to the Golden Bell, through the saloon, quiet now between afternoon and evening crowds, and up the stairs. Down a hallway lined with closed doors. Cole heard crying from one room, laughter from another, the sounds of people making do with what they had. The last door opened into an office. Plush carpet, mahogany desk, paintings on the walls. Victor Hale sat behind that desk like a king on a throne. He was younger than Cole expected, maybe 40, well-dressed in a tailored suit, dark hair slicked back, handsome in a cold way, like a statue carved from ice, gold rings on every finger, including the brand he'd pressed into Lena's face. Mr. Maddox. Hale's voice was smooth, educated. I've heard a lot about you today. Nothing good, I hope. Hale smiled. Sit, please. Cole remained standing. The 4 enforcers positioned themselves around the room. You're harboring my property, Hale said pleasantly. I'd like her back? She's not property. She's a person. A person who owes me money. A debt her brother failed to pay before his unfortunate death. All very legal and documented. Documentation can be forged. Can it? Hale opened a drawer, pulled out papers. Her brother, Matthew Cross, borrowed $200 at 15% interest. Failed to repay. The debt transfers to his next of kin. It's all there, signed and witnessed. Cole glanced at the papers. They looked official. Probably were, in a technical sense. Matthew Cross died 2 years ago. You only came after Lena 6 months ago. Why the delay? I'm a patient man. I gave her time to grieve. Hale's smile never wavered. When it became clear she couldn't pay, I offered her work. She accepted, then reneged. Theft of services, Mr. Maddox. Also documented. You branded her. An unfortunate accident during a disciplinary discussion. She became aggressive, fell against a hot stove. Very tragic. No, that's not how burns work. Hale spread his hands. Your word against mine, and I have witnesses who'll swear to my version of events. Cole leaned on the desk. Here's what I think happened. You saw a woman you wanted, forged papers to create a debt, used that debt to force her into your bed. When she refused, you marked her as a warning to others. That's quite a story. Can you prove any of it? Not yet. Then we have a problem. Hale stood, walked to the window overlooking the street. I'm a reasonable man, Mr. Maddox. I understand you acted out of misguided chivalry. So I'll make you an offer. Send Lena back. Forget this ever happened. I'll even pay you for your trouble. Say, $500? No. 1,000? She's not for sale. Hale turned from the window. Everything's for sale. It's just a matter of price. So name yours. There isn't one. For the first time, Hale's mask slipped. Anger flashed across his face, quick and vicious. You're making a mistake. So people keep telling me. I own this town. I own the sheriff, the mayor, the judge. I own the very ground you're standing on. You have nothing and no one. Hale walked closer. Send her back or I'll send men to take her, and they won't be gentle about it. Cole met his eyes. You send men to my ranch, they won't come back. You'd kill for her? A woman you barely know? If I have to. Hale studied him for a long moment. You're either very brave or very stupid. I haven't decided which. Probably both. Well, Hale returned to his desk. I gave you a chance. What happens next is on your head. The enforcers moved in, but Cole was already walking toward the door. One more thing, Hale. You ever wonder what happens when people stop being afraid of you? Is that supposed to be a threat? It's an observation. Fear only works as long as people believe there's no alternative. Once they see one, Cole smiled without humor. Well, that's when empires fall. He walked out before they could respond. Cole rode back to the ranch as night settled over the desert. His mind churned through what he'd learned, trying to form it into something actionable. Hale had money, power, and the law. But he also had something else, a pattern. Years of abuse, multiple victims, documentation that could be challenged. If Cole could find the right people, the right evidence, maybe there was a crack in the armor. The question was whether he'd live long enough to exploit it. The ranch appeared in the distance, lamplight glowing from the main house. Lena had waited up. When Cole dismounted, she rushed out. Thank God, I thought, I'm fine. He handed her his saddlebags. But we need to talk. Inside, over coffee, he laid out everything he'd learned. The names, the timeline, the scope of Hale's operation. Lena listened, her face growing paler. This is bigger than I thought, she whispered. Yeah, but bigger also means more people affected, more potential witnesses. Witnesses who are terrified or dead. Some of them, but not all. Cole pulled out the list from the storekeeper. These women got away. If we can find them, get them to talk. That's a lot of ifs. It is, but it's what we've got. He looked at her. Lena, I met with Hale tonight. Her eyes went wide. What? His men grabbed me, brought me in. He made an offer, money in exchange for you. And? I told him no. She stood abruptly, pacing. You should have taken it, taken the money, told him I ran off, disappeared, saved yourself. That's not how this works. This isn't your fight. It is now. Cole stood too, caught her shoulders. I made it my fight when I stood up to Webb, when I told you to stay, when I looked at that mark on your face and decided I couldn't just let it go. He released her, stepped back. But if you want to leave, I won't stop you. I'll fight this either way. Lena stared at him, tears streaming. Why are you like this? Like what? Like someone who gives a damn. Cole thought about Emma and Rose, about the man he'd been before grief hollowed him out. Because I spent too many years being the opposite. They stood in silence, the weight of what they were attempting settling between them. Finally, Lena wiped her eyes. Okay, where do we start? With the women on this list. We find them. We tell them they're not alone, and we hope some of them are brave enough to speak up. And if they're not, then we find another way. Cole's jaw set. But one way or another, Victor Hale's going to answer for what he's done. Outside, the desert wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain that never came. In the distance, coyotes called to each other, lonely sounds in the vast darkness. Cole stood on the porch after Lena left, looking at stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. He thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the ways he could fail. But he also thought about that mark on Lena's face, and the other marks on other faces, and all the women who'd never gotten a chance to fight back. If this killed him, At least he'd die for something that mattered. That was more than he'd had in a long time. The first name on the list was Catherine Wells, last seen 3 months ago in a town called Silverton, 60 miles northwest. Cole left before dawn, taking enough supplies for 3 days and leaving explicit instructions with Lena about the rifle in the main house and where to hide if trouble came. Danny watched him saddle up from the bunkhouse door, that serious expression never wavering. "You coming back?" the boy asked. Cole tightened the cinch, testing it. "Plan to." "Plans don't always work." Cole stopped, looked at the kid. 6 years old and already cynical. "No, they don't, but I'm stubborn and I don't die easy." "Aunt Lena says you're trying to help us." "That's the idea." Danny considered this. "My pa used to say people who help strangers are either saints or idiots." "Your pa was probably right. Which one you think I am?" "Don't believe in saints." But the corner of Danny's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Cole swung into the saddle. "Keep an eye on your aunt for me." "I always do." The ride to Silverton took most of the day. Cole pushed hard, wanting to cover ground before word spread too far about what he was doing. Small towns talked, and talk traveled faster than horses sometimes. Silverton was smaller than Redemption, barely a town at all, just a trading post, a livery, and a handful of houses scattered along a creek that ran dry half the year. Cole found the trading post owner mending harness in front of his store. "Looking for Catherine Wells," Cole said, dismounting. The man didn't look up from his work. "Don't know the name." "She would have come through about 3 months back, maybe looking for work, maybe just passing through." "Lots of folks pass through. Can't remember them all." Cole pulled out a silver dollar, set it on the bench beside the man. "Maybe this helps your memory." The harness work stopped. The man glanced at the coin, then at Cole. "You law?" "No." "Working for someone?" "Just myself." The man pocketed the coin. "There was a woman came through, thin, dark hair, wouldn't look you in the eye. Worked at the boarding house for a few weeks, then moved on." "Where?" "Didn't say, just left one morning, heading east." "She say anything about where she'd been? What she was running from?" The man's expression shifted, something guarded sliding into place. "Mister, women who show up alone and scared don't usually share their life stories. And men who come asking about them don't usually have good intentions. I'm trying to help her. That's what they all say." Cole pulled out another dollar. The town she ran from was Redemption. The man she ran from was Victor Hale. "Ring any bells?" The trading post owner's face went pale. He pushed the second dollar back. "I don't want any part of this." "Any part of what?" "Whatever you're planning. Hale's got reach. People who cross him have accidents." "So you know about him?" "Everyone knows about him. Everyone's smart enough to keep their mouths shut." The man stood, gathering his tools. "Catherine went east. That's all I know. All I'm saying. You want advice? Stop looking. Forget you ever heard her name." He went inside and shut the door. Cole stood there a moment, anger simmering. Fear had its hooks in deep out here, wrapped around every throat that might otherwise speak up. He mounted and rode east. 2 days of following cold trails and vague rumors led him to a settlement so small it didn't have a name, just a cluster of farms around a crossroads. An old woman selling eggs told him about a woman matching Catherine's description who'd worked harvest last month, then disappeared again. "Where'd she go?" The old woman shrugged. "Didn't ask. Seemed like she didn't want to be found." "Did she say anything about Redemption? About a man named Hale?" The woman's expression closed down. "I don't gossip." "This isn't gossip. I don't care what it is. I mind my business, and I suggest you mind yours." Cole rode back to the ranch, empty-handed and frustrated. 3 days gone, nothing to show for it but dead ends and slammed doors. Lena met him at the gate, relief and worry fighting for dominance on her face. "I thought maybe—" "I'm fine. Just unsuccessful." He dismounted, suddenly exhausted. "Catherine Wells is gone. Either she doesn't want to be found or someone made sure she can't be. I told you, Hale's too powerful. People are too scared." "Then we try the next name." "Cole, I'm not giving up." He led his horse toward the barn. "Not yet." But doubt was creeping in.
How do you fight an enemy nobody will testify against? How do you prove crimes when all the witnesses vanish? That night, Cole sat on his porch with whiskey he'd promised himself he wouldn't touch. He'd poured 2 fingers worth before Lena came out and sat beside him.
"You're going to drink yourself into bad decisions," she said quietly. "Probably." He didn't touch the glass, just looked at it. "You know what the worst part is? Every person I talked to knew. They knew what Hale was, what he'd done, but they're so damn scared they won't even admit it out loud. Can you blame them?" Yeah, I can." The words came out harsher than intended. Because their silence means he keeps doing it, means more women end up marked or buried, or both. You can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone, I'm trying to save someone. Anyone. He finally looked at her. If we can't find witnesses, we need something else. Something he can't deny or cover up. Like what? Cole thought about it. His records, financial documents. If he's been doing this for years, there's got to be a paper trail, forged debts, payoffs to officials, something that proves the pattern. Those would be locked in his office, in the Golden Bell, surrounded by his men. I know. Lena's eyes went wide. You can't be serious. You got a better idea? Yes. Staying alive. Cole stood, paced to the porch rail. Hale thinks I'm just some rancher playing hero. He doesn't know what I did before I came out here. What did you do? He was quiet for a long moment. Army Scout. 15 years. Did things I'm not proud of in places you've never heard of. Learned how to move quiet, how to get in and out of places I wasn't supposed to be. He turned to face her. I'm not just some cowboy, Lena. I know how to do this. Knowing how and doing it without getting killed are different things. Maybe, but it's the only play we've got left. She stood, came to stand beside him. When? I need to plan it. Watch the place, learn the rhythms, figure out when he's vulnerable. He glanced at her. Could take a week or more. And if you get caught? Then you and Danny run. Take what money I've got, take the horse, and don't stop until you hit the territorial line. That's not a plan. That's suicide with extra steps. Despite everything, Cole smiled. You always this pessimistic? I'm realistic. There's a difference. They stood together in the darkness, the desert wind carrying the scent of sage and dust. Somewhere out in the scrubland, something howled, coyote or wolf, hard to tell. I had a family once, Cole said quietly. Wife named Emma, daughter named Rose. They died 11 years ago. Fever took them both in the span of a week. Lena didn't say anything, just listened. I wasn't there when it happened. I was off scouting for the army, 200 miles away. By the time I got word and made it home, they were already buried. His voice roughened. I spent the next decade telling myself it didn't matter, that caring about people just meant more pain, easier to be alone. What changed? You did. That mark on your face, the way you looked when Webb tried to take you back. He met her eyes. I realized I was already dead inside. Had been for years. So what did I have to lose? Your life. My life stopped mattering the day I buried my girls, but maybe it could matter again if I did something worth dying for. Lena's hand found his. I don't want you to die. Yeah, well, I don't particularly want to die either, so I'll do my best to avoid it. They stood like that until the cold drove them inside. The next morning, Cole rode back to Redemption. Not confrontational this time, just another rancher in town for supplies. He moved through the streets like he belonged there, watching the Golden Bell from various angles. Hale's men changed guard at noon and midnight. The side door got less traffic than the front. Deliveries came through the back alley between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. The office was on the 3rd floor, corner room, window facing the side street. He spent 3 days gathering intelligence, sleeping in a boarding house under a false name, staying invisible. On the 4th day, he noticed something interesting. Every Wednesday afternoon, Hale left the Golden Bell and walked to the bank. Stayed about an hour, always with only 2 guards instead of his usual 4. Wednesday afternoon, the office would be less defended. Cole returned to the ranch and started planning in earnest. He needed rope, dark clothes, and timing so precise it wouldn't leave room for error. You're really doing this, Lena said, watching him check his equipment. Wednesday night, moon'll be dark, which helps. What do you need me to do? Stay here with Danny. If I'm not back by Friday morning, you run. Cole, that's not negotiable. He looked at her. If this goes wrong, I need to know you're safe. Promise me. After a long moment, she nodded. I promise. Good. He returned to his preparations, trying not to think about all the ways this could fail. Wednesday came too fast and too slow at the same time. Cole spent the morning teaching Danny how to fish in the creek behind the ranch, a useless skill in a stream that barely held water, but it kept the kid occupied. Lena cooked a meal none of them had appetite for. At sunset, Cole saddled up. Danny came running from the bunkhouse, something clutched in his hand. Mr. Maddox, wait. Cole turned. The boy held out a small wooden carving, a horse, roughly made but recognizable. My pa made this, Danny said. Before he died. It's for luck. Cole knelt down, eye level with the kid. I can't take this. It's yours. I want you to have it, so you come back. The weight of that simple statement hit harder than Cole expected. He took the carving, closed his hand around it. I'll bring it back to you, I promise. Danny nodded, solemn as always, then ran back to the bunkhouse. Lena walked Cole to his horse. Be careful. Always am. Liar. She reached up, pulled him down, and kissed him, quick and desperate and full of fear. When she pulled back, Cole didn't know what to say. So he just mounted up and rode toward redemption, the wooden horse in his pocket, and the taste of her still on his lips. The ride took 3 hours. Cole left his horse 2 miles outside town and walked in on foot, using dry washes and rocky ground to avoid leaving tracks. He'd changed into dark clothes, left his gun behind in favor of a knife. Quieter if things went wrong. Redemption was settling into evening when he arrived, lamps flickering on in windows, the saloon starting to fill. Cole waited in an alley across from the Golden Bell, watching the pattern he'd memorized. At 11, the night guard changed. At midnight, the traffic slowed to a trickle. By 1 in the morning, the streets were nearly empty. Cole moved. The side of the building had a drainage pipe that ran from roof to ground. He tested it carefully, old iron, but solid. Started climbing, slow and steady, testing each handhold. The second-floor window was locked but cheap. Cole used his knife to jimmy the latch, slipped inside. He found himself in a storage room full of liquor crates and cleaning supplies. The smell of old beer and tobacco hung heavy. He listened. Voices below, muffled through floorboards, piano music from the saloon, footsteps somewhere distant. The hallway was dark. Cole moved along it like smoke, keeping to the walls where boards were less likely to creak. Found the stairs to the 3rd floor, started up. A door opened above him. Light spilled down. Cole pressed against the wall, knife ready. One of Hale's enforcers came down, half drunk and laughing to himself. Passed within 2 feet of Cole without seeing him. The darkness and the man's inebriation were the only reasons Cole didn't have to kill him. When the footsteps faded, Cole continued up. The 3rd floor was quieter. Most of the rooms here were for Hale's personal use, his office, his quarters, storage for the expensive inventory. Cole counted doors until he found the right one. Locked, of course. He knelt, working his knife into the mechanism. It was a good lock, better than the window, but Cole had broken into Apache strongholds and Mexican armories. This was just a door. The lock clicked. Cole eased it open, slipped inside, and closed it behind him. Hale's office was exactly as he remembered. Plush carpet, mahogany desk, paintings worth more than most people made in a year. A safe sat in the corner, heavy iron with a combination lock. Cole ignored it. Safes took time and made noise. He went for the desk instead. The drawers were locked but flimsy. He forced one open with his knife, started rifling through papers. Receipts, correspondence, inventory lists. Nothing useful. Second drawer, more of the same. Third drawer, bottom left, jackpot. A leather ledger, pages filled with names and numbers. Cole pulled it out, started scanning by the light of the moon through the window. Column 1, women's names. Dozens of them. Column 2, supposed debts, ranging from $50 to $500. Column 3, dates acquired. Column 4, status. Most said active. Some said released. A few said deceased. Cole's blood went cold. This wasn't just evidence of debt fraud, it was a catalog of victims. Some of the deceased entries had dates less than a month after acquired. He kept flipping. Found another ledger underneath, this one tracking payments to officials. Sheriff Webb got $100 monthly. Mayor Thompson, $200. Judge Carstairs, $50 per case. A territorial marshal named Dixon, $500 quarterly. This was it. This was everything they needed. Proof of the scheme, proof of the corruption, names and dates and amounts that couldn't be explained away. Cole tucked both ledgers inside his shirt and turned to leave. The door opened. Victor Hale stood in the doorway, gun in hand, 4 men behind him. "I had a feeling you'd try something stupid," Hale said. "Didn't expect you to be this stupid." Cole's hand moved toward his knife. "Don't." Hale cocked the hammer. "You're fast, but you're not faster than a bullet." Cole froze. "The ledgers," Hale said. "Put them on the desk." "No." Hale smiled. "Then I shoot you. Take them off your corpse and go visit that pretty little property you've been hiding at your ranch. Maybe give her a matching mark on the other side of her face. Maybe give the boy one too. Children need to learn obedience early." Every muscle in Cole's body screamed to fight, but Hale had the angle and the numbers. He'd planned this, waited for it. Cole pulled the ledgers from his shirt, set them on the desk. "Good." Hale lowered the gun slightly. "See? Cooperation is so much more civilized. Now, we're going to walk downstairs. You're going to get on your horse and ride out of my town, and you're never coming back. And if I don't, then my men beat you to death right here, and I send a different message to your ranch, probably involving fire." Cole calculated odds again. Still terrible, but at least downstairs he might have a chance in the open. "All right, he said. "Let's walk." They marched him down 2 flights of stairs and through the saloon. A few late-night drinkers watched with bleary disinterest. Nobody was going to help. Nobody ever did. Out the front door, into the street, Hale's men formed a box around Cole, hands on weapons. "Your horse is where?" Hale asked. 2 miles out." "Then you have a long walk ahead. I suggest you start." Cole took 1 step. That's when the shotgun blast shattered the night. Everyone hit the ground or scrambled for cover. Cole rolled, came up looking for the shooter. Doc Morrison stood across the street, shotgun in shaking hands, looking just as surprised as everyone else that he'd fired. "Drop your guns," Morrison called out. "All of you." Hale laughed from behind a water trough. "Doc, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done years ago." Morrison's voice quavered, but held. "Let him go." "You're drunk." "I'm terrified, but I'm also done being a coward." Morrison fired the second barrel into the air. Next shot's not a warning. In the chaos, Cole saw his chance. He lunged for the nearest enforcer, drove a fist into the man's throat, took his gun, turned and fired twice. 1 shot into the dirt as warning, 1 into the shoulder of another guard going for his weapon. "Everybody stop!" Cole had the gun pointed at Hale now. "Or the next one goes through his head." Hale's men froze. The saloon owner stayed behind the water trough, eyes calculating. "You'll never make it out of town," Hale said. "Maybe, but you'll be dead, and those ledgers will disappear. Your insurance policies lose their power when you're not around to enforce them." Stalemate. Then hoofbeats. Cole's heart sank. Reinforcements. But the riders weren't Hale's men. Sheriff Webb led them, along with 2 men Cole didn't recognize. They wore badges that caught the lamplight differently than Webb's tin star. Federal badges. Webb dismounted, looking sick. The federal marshals followed. "Victor Hale," one of the marshals said, "you're under arrest for fraud, kidnapping, and conspiracy to obstruct justice." Hale stood slowly, confusion breaking through his usual control. "What?" The marshal produced a document. "Been investigating you for 6 months. Had enough to move once we got word about ledgers documenting your whole operation." "What ledgers?" Cole's mind raced. He hadn't told anyone except Lena what he was doing tonight. The second marshal gestured to his saddlebags. "The ones someone delivered to our office in Santa Fe 3 days ago. Anonymous, complete records of every bribe, every victim, every crime." Hale's face went white. "That's impossible." "Apparently not." The marshal motioned to his deputies. "Take him." As they moved in, Hale's eyes found Cole. "This was you." "Wasn't me." Cole holstered the stolen gun. But I wish it had been. They dragged Hale away, still protesting, still not understanding. His enforcers scattered like roaches when light hits. Webb stood there, looking like he wanted to disappear into the ground. The first marshal approached Cole. You Maddox? Yeah. You should know, the woman who sent those ledgers included a note. Said she was done running. Said she wanted other women to know they could fight back. He handed Cole a folded paper. She wanted you to have this. Cole opened it. The handwriting was shaky but determined. Mr. Maddox, I heard what you were trying to do. I couldn't testify in person, but I could do this. I've been copying Hale's records for 2 years, waiting for someone brave enough to use them. Thank you for being that person. Tell Lena she's not alone anymore. Catherine Wells. Cole stared at the letter, throat tight. Doc Morrison approached, shotgun hanging loose in his hands. I'm sorry I didn't do that sooner. You did it when it mattered. Cole clasped the old man's shoulder. That's what counts. The doctor nodded, looking dazed. I need a drink. Yeah, me too. They walked to a different saloon, not the Golden Bell, never again the Golden Bell, and drank to small victories and long overdue courage. Cole rode back to his ranch at dawn, exhausted and battered, but carrying Catherine's letter like a talisman. The sun was breaking over the eastern hills when he saw the ranch house. Lena stood on the porch, Danny beside her. When she saw Cole, relief broke across her face like sunrise. He dismounted and she ran to him. I heard someone rode through an hour ago saying Hale was arrested. Federal charges. Is it true? It's true. He handed her Catherine's letter. She read it, tears streaming. She did this for us. For all of us. Yeah. Danny approached, shy but determined. You came back. Cole pulled the wooden horse from his pocket, handed it to the boy. Told you I would. Thing works pretty good as a luck charm. Danny took it, then did something unexpected. Hugged Cole's leg tight, the way only scared kids who've decided to trust someone can hug. Cole's hand found the boy's hair, rested there gentle. Lena watched them both, something breaking and rebuilding in her expression. What happens now? Now? Cole looked at the ranch, at the woman and boy who'd somehow become his family. Now we figure out what living actually means. It wasn't an ending. It was barely a beginning. Hale would fight the charges, probably. There'd be trials, testimony, long legal battles ahead. But for the first time in 11 years, Cole felt something other than emptiness. Maybe that was enough. The feeling didn't last. 3 days after Hale's arrest, a lawyer from Denver showed up at Cole's ranch, driving a polished carriage that had no business on these roads. He was young, expensive-looking, with papers that probably cost more than Cole's entire spread. Mr. Maddox? The lawyer didn't dismount, just called down from his seat. My name is Richard Ashford. I represent Victor Hale. Cole was mending fence, and Danny helping by handing him wire. Not interested in whatever you're selling. I'm not selling anything. I'm delivering a message. Ashford pulled out a document. Mr. Hale is posting bail this afternoon. He'll be released pending trial. The wire cutter slipped in Cole's hand. That was fast. Money moves quickly when properly motivated. My client wanted you to know he hasn't forgotten your interference. He also wanted me to inform you that he's filed a civil suit for damages, destruction of property, theft of documents, assault on his employees. The total comes to $15,000. Cole laughed, sharp and bitter. I don't have 15,000 cents. Then he'll take your land, this ranch, everything on it. Ashford's smile was professional, empty, unless you convince Miss Cross to return voluntarily and drop all claims against Mr. Hale. Then he might be persuaded to forget the whole unfortunate business. Get off my property. The court papers will be served officially within the week. You might want to consult an attorney, though I doubt you can afford one capable of fighting this. Ashford tipped his hat. Good day, Mr. Maddox. The carriage rolled away, leaving dust and dread in its wake. Danny stood there, wire forgotten in his hands. What's that mean? Means rich men don't stay down just because you hit them once. Cole threw the wire cutters into the dirt. Come on, we need to talk to your aunt. Lena took the news worse than Cole expected. She didn't cry or panic, just went very still. That same frozen quality she'd had when she first arrived. I'll go back, she said quietly. Tell him I'll go back. The hell you will. Cole, he's going to take everything from you. Your home, your land. I don't care. Well, I do. Her voice cracked. You've lost enough. I won't let you lose more because of me. They were in the kitchen, Danny outside feeding chickens, trying to pretend he couldn't hear them fighting through the window. Cole grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. Hale's counting on us breaking, on you being so scared and me being so desperate that we just give up. That's how men like him win, not through strength, through fear. And what do we do instead? Wait for him to take the ranch? Wait for his lawyers to destroy us in court? We fight back, different way this time. How? We don't have money for lawyers. We have something better. Cole released her, started pacing. We have the truth. Catherine's ledgers got Hale arrested, but they're not enough to convict him without testimony. Without people willing to stand up in court and say what he did. Lena shook her head. Those women are scattered across the territory. Most of them are too scared to even use their real names anymore. Then we find them. We tell them Hale's out on bail, that he's threatening witnesses, trying to buy his way out of justice. We ask them to do what Catherine did. Be brave when it counts. And if they say no, then we tried. Cole stopped pacing, faced her. But I don't think they will. Fear's a powerful thing, Lena, but so is anger. So is the chance to finally make someone pay for what they did to you. She studied his face for a long moment. You really think we can do this? I think we have to try. Outside, Danny dropped a bucket. The clang echoed across the yard. Lena walked to the window, watched the boy scramble to pick up scattered feed. He's already lost so much. His parents, his home, any sense of safety. If this goes wrong, we'll deal with it. But I'm not giving up without a fight, and I don't think you are either. She turned back to him. Where do we start? Cole pulled out the list from the storekeeper, the one he'd barely made a dent in. We start with the names. We ride to every town, every settlement where these women might be. We find them, and we ask them to testify. That could take weeks. Then we better get started. They left the next morning, all three of them. Cole didn't like bringing Danny along, but leaving him alone at the ranch wasn't an option, and splitting up meant less protection if Hale's men came looking for revenge. The first town was 2 days' ride south, a mining settlement called Copper Ridge that clung to the side of a mountain like it might slide off any minute. The name on Cole's list was Mary Sullivan, last seen working at a boarding house 6 months ago. They found the boarding house easily enough, only one in town. The woman who answered the door was older, heavy-set, with eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. Mary Sullivan? Cole asked. Don't know her. She worked here, dark hair, scar on her left hand. I said I don't know her. The woman started to close the door. Lena stepped forward. Please. We're not here to cause trouble. We just need to talk to her. The woman's eyes flicked to the mark on Lena's face, visible despite her attempts to hide it. Something shifted in her expression. Wait here, she said, and disappeared inside. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Danny fidgeted beside Cole, nervous energy radiating off him. Finally, a different woman appeared. She was younger than Lena, maybe 25, with the kind of worn-down look that came from surviving things that should have killed you. Her left hand bore a thick scar across the palm. I'm Mary, she said. Who are you? Lena stepped forward. My name is Lena Cross. This is Cole Maddox and my nephew Danny. We're looking for women who worked for Victor Hale. Mary's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Lena moved closer. Because he did this to you too. She pulled her hair back, showing the brand in full daylight. Mary's breath caught. How did you? He marked me 3 months ago. Tried to keep me locked up like he did you. But I got away, and now he's been arrested. Federal charges for everything he's done. Mary's hand went to her own scar, fingers tracing the old wound. Arrested doesn't mean convicted. No, but it means there's a chance, a real chance to make him pay. Lena's voice strengthened. They're building a case, but they need witnesses, people willing to testify about what he did. I can't. Mary was already backing away. I've built a life here. People don't know where I came from, what happened to me. If I testify, everyone will know. They'll look at me different. They'll look at you like a survivor, Cole said, like someone brave enough to speak truth. You don't understand. Men like Hale, They don't just hurt you once. They keep hurting you forever through shame and fear and the way people see you after. Mary's eyes filled. I can't go through that again. Lena reached out, took Mary's scarred hand in her own. I understand better than you know, but he's out on bail right now. He's threatening people, buying lawyers, trying to make this all disappear. If we don't stand up, if we let fear win, he'll just keep doing it to other women, other girls. Forever. I'm one person. What difference can I make? You're not one person. You're one voice. And when voices join together, they become something Hale can't silence or buy off. Lena squeezed her hand. I'm testifying. So is another woman named Catherine. We're asking you to join us. Mary looked at her hand in Lena's, at the matching scars of survival. When's the trial? 6 weeks. In Santa Fe. And if I say no? Then we respect that and move on. No judgment, no pressure. Just gratitude that you listened. For a long moment, Mary didn't speak. Cole could see the war happening behind her eyes, fear versus anger, safety versus justice. I need time to think, Mary finally said. Of course. Lena released her hand. We're staying at the hotel tonight. If you decide to help, come find us. If not, she smiled, sad but genuine. Stay safe, Mary. You deserve that. They walked away, leaving Mary standing in the doorway looking like someone had just offered her both wings and chains. At the hotel, Danny fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the ride. Lena and Cole sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the mountains. She's not coming, Lena said quietly. You don't know that. I saw her face. She's too scared. And I don't blame her. Cole lit a cigarette, something he rarely did anymore. You were scared too. You still stood up. I didn't have a choice. Hale forced my hand when he sent Webb after me. Everyone has a choice. You chose to fight instead of run. That's why we're here. Lena was quiet for a moment. What if we do all this? Find every woman, ask everyone to testify, and nobody says yes? What if Catherine and I are the only ones willing to speak up? Then it's just the two of you, but two voices are louder than silence. Are they loud enough to beat Victor Hale? Cole took a long drag, exhaled smoke into the cooling air. I don't know, but they're all we've got. They sat there until the stars came out, bright and indifferent as always. Morning brought a surprise. Mary Sullivan appeared at their door just after dawn, a small bag in her hand. I'm coming with you, she said without preamble, to Santa Fe, to testify. Lena's face broke into a smile. Mary, don't thank me yet. I'm terrified, and I might change my mind 10 times before we get there. But last night I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about the girl who replaced me at the Golden Bell, wondering what happened to her, if she's still alive. Mary's jaw set. I can't save her, but maybe I can stop it from happening to someone else. Cole stood. You need anything before we leave? Just courage. You got any extra lying around? Fresh out, but we can borrow each other's when we run low. Mary almost smiled at that. They rode out together, 4 instead of 3. The next name on the list was in a town 3 days west. The days fell into a rhythm. Ride from dawn to dusk, make camp under stars that didn't care about their mission, wake up and do it again. Danny proved tougher than his small frame suggested, never complaining about the long hours or hard ground. Some towns yielded nothing. The women had moved on or never existed at all, names on a list that led nowhere. Other towns brought more survivors, each with their own scars and their own fears. In a settlement called Broken Creek, they found Anna Chen, a Chinese woman who'd been trafficked to redemption and escaped by setting fire to the room they'd locked her in. She agreed to testify, but only if her younger sister could stay protected somewhere safe during the trial. I'll take her to my ranch, Cole offered. She'll be safe there. Anna studied him with shrewd eyes. Why do you help? You're not one of us. No, but I'm tired of looking away when bad things happen. That's not much of a reason. It's the only one I've got. Anna considered this, then nodded. Okay, we testify together. In Red Mesa, they found 2 women, sisters who'd been forced into Hale's operation when their father died, owing him money that probably never existed. They were working as seamstresses now, quiet and withdrawn, barely speaking above whispers. The older sister, Rachel, listened to Lena's story without expression.
When Lena finished, Rachel rolled up her sleeve to show a burn scar that wrapped around her entire forearm. "He did this when I tried to escape the first time," she said flatly. "Said next time he'd use my face like he did to you." "There won't be a next time," Lena said. "Not if we stop him." Rachel looked at her younger sister, Sarah, who couldn't have been more than 18. "What do you think?" Sarah's voice came out small but clear. "I think we've been running for 2 years. I'm tired of running." "Then we testify." The group grew. 5 women became 7, then 9. They traveled together now, a caravan of survivors moving towards something that felt like justice but might just be another kind of pain. Cole watched them around the campfire each night, sharing stories they'd kept buried for years. The telling seemed to help, like lancing a wound to let the poison out.
Mary talked about the night Hale had broken her hand with a hammer for refusing a customer. Anna described the branded characters on her back that marked her as property in the trafficking network. Rachel and Sarah shared the horror of watching their father's grave desecrated when they couldn't pay the fictional debt fast enough. Lena listened to all of it, her own story woven into theirs, a tapestry of survival and suffering. One night, Danny asked the question that had probably been building in his small mind for weeks. "Why are people so mean?" The women looked at each other. Mary answered first. "Because they can be. Because nobody stops them." "But you're stopping them now," Danny said. "Right?" "We're trying," Lena told him. "That's all anyone can do. Try." Danny thought about this, solemn as always. "I think trying is brave." Something about that simple observation hit Cole hard. Here was a 6-year-old who'd lost everything, surrounded by women bearing scars from men's cruelty, and he still believed in bravery. Maybe there was hope after all. They reached Santa Fe 4 weeks after leaving Cole's ranch. The territorial capital was bigger than any of them were comfortable with. Too many people, too much noise, buildings stacked close together like they were trying to hide from the desert. The federal prosecutor was a man named Thomas Wright, thin and intense, with ink-stained fingers and eyes that missed nothing. He listened to each woman's story, took notes in cramped handwriting, asked questions that sometimes felt too personal. "I need details," he explained when Rachel flinched at his probing. "Dates, times, names of witnesses. Hale's lawyers will attack every inconsistency, every gap in memory. We have to be airtight." "We're not lying," Rachel said sharply. "I know, but truth needs evidence in a courtroom. It needs corroboration." "Yeah." Wright looked at all of them. "I want you to understand what you're walking into. Hale has hired 3 of the best defense attorneys in the territory. They will try to discredit you, make you look like opportunists or liars. They'll bring up your pasts, your choices, anything they can use to make a jury doubt you." "Let them try," Anna said. "We've survived worse than lawyers." Wright almost smiled. "I believe you have. But surviving and winning are different things." The trial date was set for 2 weeks out. Wright arranged boarding for the women at a hotel near the courthouse, paid for with federal funds. Cole took a room nearby, keeping watch, making sure none of Hale's people came sniffing around. On the 5th night, someone did. Cole was walking back from dinner when he noticed the man, too well dressed for the neighborhood, lingering near the hotel entrance. He'd seen that face before, back in Redemption, one of Hale's enforcers. Cole circled around, came up behind him, put his gun against the man's spine. "Looking for someone?" The enforcer went rigid. "Just out for a walk." "At midnight, outside a hotel full of witnesses against your boss. That's quite a coincidence." "I don't know what you're talking about." Cole pressed the gun harder. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk away from here and not come back. You're going to tell Hale that his intimidation won't work. And if I see you or anyone like you near these women again, I'll put a bullet in you, understand? Hale's going to walk. You know that, right? He's got judges in his pocket, jury members who owe him favors. This whole circus is just for show." "Maybe, but the show goes on anyway." Cole shoved him forward. "Now get lost before I change my mind about that bullet." The enforcer stumbled away into the darkness. Cole waited until he was gone, then headed inside to tell Wright they had a problem. The prosecutor took the news grimly. "I'll request protective custody for your witnesses, but that means keeping them isolated. No contact with anyone outside the case." "They won't like that." They don't have to like it. They just have to stay alive long enough to testify. Wright pulled out a bottle from his desk drawer, poured 2 glasses. You know what the worst part of this job is? Knowing that even when we win, we don't really win. Hale might go to prison, but the system that enabled him stays intact. The next Victor Hale is already out there somewhere, learning from his predecessor's mistakes. Cole took the offered glass. So why do it? Because the alternative is letting them win without a fight, and I'm too stubborn for that. Wright raised his glass. To stubborn fools everywhere. They drank to that. The night before the trial, Lena couldn't sleep. She found Cole on the hotel roof, looking at stars that seemed dimmer here than over the ranch. You should rest, he said without turning. Can't. She came to stand beside him. Keep thinking about tomorrow, about standing in front of strangers and telling them what Hale did, letting them see this. She touched her face. Letting them judge whether I'm telling the truth. They'll believe you. Will they, or will they see a woman who worked in a saloon and decide I got what I deserved? Cole turned to face her. You know that's not true. Doesn't matter what I know. Matters what 12 strangers think. She wrapped her arms around herself against the night chill. I'm scared, Cole. More scared than when I was running. At least then I only had to worry about surviving. Now I have to worry about failing, about letting down all those women who trusted me. You won't fail. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise you won't face it alone. He took her hand. Whatever happens in that courtroom, we see it through together. Lena looked at their joined hands, his scarred and calloused from years of hard living, hers trembling despite her attempt at steadiness. I never thanked you, she said quietly, for everything you've risked, everything you've lost. Haven't lost anything yet. Your peace, your solitude, the life you built to forget the pain. Cole was quiet for a moment. That wasn't a life. It was just waiting to die. You gave me something to live for again. If anything, I should be thanking you. She leaned against him, and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They stood like that until the sky started to lighten, 2 people holding each other against the weight of what morning would bring. When dawn came, it came too fast and too slow at the same time. The courthouse was imposing, 3 stories of territorial authority, with columns that tried too hard to look important. People gathered on the steps, curious locals mixed with reporters who'd caught wind of the trial. Inside, the courtroom smelled like old wood and older justice. The judge was a severe-looking man named Thornton, with a reputation for fairness that Wright said was mostly deserved. Hale sat at the defense table looking composed, almost bored. His lawyers flanked him like guard dogs, 3 men in expensive suits, radiating confidence. The jury filed in, 12 men, all white, all property owners as required by territorial law. Cole studied their faces, trying to read who might be sympathetic, who might be bought. Wright stood to make his opening statement. His voice carried through the courtroom, clear and precise. Gentlemen of the jury, over the next several days, you will hear testimony about systematic abuse, fraud, and exploitation. You will hear from women who survived horrors most of us can't imagine. You will see evidence of a criminal enterprise disguised as legitimate business. And when you've heard it all, I trust you will do what justice demands. Hold Victor Hale accountable for his crimes. The lead defense attorney, a silver-haired man named Blackwell, stood for his response. What you will hear, he said smoothly, is a conspiracy of disgruntled former employees attempting to extort money from a successful businessman. You will hear claims without evidence, accusations without proof. My client is guilty of only one thing, being successful in a territory where success breeds jealousy and resentment. The battle lines were drawn. Wright called Catherine Wells first. She walked to the stand with her head high, refusing to be ashamed. Under Wright's gentle questioning, she described years of systematic abuse, the ledgers she'd secretly copied, the courage it took to finally act. Blackwell's cross-examination was brutal. Miss Wells, isn't it true you were arrested for theft in Denver before coming to redemption? Yes, and isn't it true you worked as a prostitute in 3 different cities? I did what I had to survive. Just answer yes or no, please. You worked as a prostitute, correct? Yes. So you have a history of dishonesty and morally questionable choices. Why should this jury believe anything you say? Catherine's hands clenched. Because I'm telling the truth. Or because my client refused your demands for money, and this is your revenge. Wright objected. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done, doubt planted in the jury's minds. Anna Chen testified next, describing her journey from San Francisco and the horrors she'd endured. The defense attacked her immigration status, her inability to speak perfect English, suggested she was part of a criminal tong seeking to eliminate competition. One by one, Wright called the women. One by one, the defense tore into them, finding every weakness, every inconsistency, every reason to doubt. By the third day, Cole could see the toll it was taking. Mary looked hollowed out after her testimony. Rachel cried in the hotel hallway. Sarah stopped eating. They're destroying us, Lena said that night, making us look like liars and criminals. That's what defense lawyers do, Cole said, though his own anger was building. But Wright's not done. He's got the ledgers, the financial records. That's harder evidence to dismiss. Unless Hale's lawyers convinced the jury those were forged, or stolen illegally, or somehow inadmissible. She wasn't wrong to worry. On the fourth day, Wright called Lena to the stand. Cole watched her walk forward, spine straight despite the trembling in her hands. Wright led her through her story, the false debt, the brand, the escape. Lena spoke clearly, looking at the jury, making them see her as human rather than abstract victim. Then Blackwell stood for cross-examination, and Cole's hands clenched into fists. Miss Cross, you claim my client branded you against your will. It's not a claim, it's what happened. Yet you have no witnesses to this alleged assault. The other women saw the aftermath, not the actual branding, so we only have your word that it happened the way you describe. You can see the mark. We can see a scar. We cannot see how you got it. Blackwell moved closer. Isn't it possible you burned yourself intentionally to create evidence against my client? The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. Lena sat frozen, horror and rage fighting on her face. I would never, or perhaps the burn was accidental and you're simply using it to support a fabricated story. That's not what happened. Can you prove that, Miss Cross? Can you prove any of your allegations beyond your word? Wright objected again. The judge overruled it. Lena's voice shook but held. I'm not lying. Victor Hale heated a branding iron and pressed it to my face while his men held me down. He said I belonged to him. He said everyone would know it. A compelling story, but still just a story. The questioning went on for hours. Blackwell tried every angle, suggesting Lena had seduced Hale and then turned vengeful when he lost interest, implying she'd fabricated the debt to avoid legitimate obligations, questioning her morality for working in a boarding house where improper activities might have occurred. By the time Wright called redirect, Lana looked like she might shatter. Miss Cross, Wright said gently, why are you here? What? Why are you testifying? What do you hope to gain? Lena was quiet for a moment. I want other women to know they don't have to accept being property. I want them to see that speaking up is possible, even when it's terrifying. And I want Victor Hale to face consequences for what he's done. Not just to me, but to dozens of women over years. That's all I want. Justice. No financial motivation? No. No revenge? I'm angry, yes. But this isn't revenge. It's accountability. Wright nodded. No further questions. As Lena stepped down, Cole caught her eye. She looked exhausted but unbroken. The trial continued for 2 more days. Wright presented the ledgers, financial experts who confirmed the pattern of fraud, even Doc Morrison, who finally found his courage and testified about treating women's injuries. The defense countered with character witnesses who praised Hale's business acumen and philanthropy, with bookkeepers who suggested the ledgers could have been doctored, with procedural objections that delayed and disrupted. Finally, both sides rested. Closing arguments came. Wright stood before the jury with quiet intensity. Gentlemen, the evidence before you is overwhelming. Multiple victims, consistent stories, documented records of fraud and abuse. The defense wants you to believe this is all fabrication, that 9 women independently decided to lie about the same man in the same way. Ask yourselves, is that really more believable than the simple truth that Victor Hale is exactly who these women say he is? Blackwell's closing was theatrical. My client is guilty of success, nothing more. These women, and I sympathize with their struggles, are attempting to profit from false accusations against an easier target than their own poor choices. Don't let sentiment override evidence. Don't let accusations replace proof. Find Victor Hale not guilty and restore justice to this courtroom. The jury deliberated for 3 days. 3 days of waiting in hotel rooms, pacing hallways, trying not to imagine the worst. The women held each other, told stories, tried to stay strong despite the uncertainty. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, word came. The jury had reached a verdict. They filed back into the courtroom, every seat packed, observers standing against walls. Cole sat behind Lena, close enough to reach if she needed him. The foreman stood. Judge Thornton asked the question that would define everything. On the charge of fraud in the 1st degree, how do you find? Guilty. Lena's breath caught. Beside her, Mary grabbed her hand. On the charge of kidnapping? Guilty. Conspiracy to obstruct justice? Guilty. Hale's face went white. His lawyers immediately objected, demanded polls of individual jurors, filed motions for mistrial. Judge Thornton hammered his gavel. The verdict stands. Mr. Hale, you will be remanded into custody pending sentencing. He looked at the prosecutors. I'll hear sentencing arguments in 1 week. As marshals led Hale away in chains, he turned to look at the women who'd brought him down. His expression promised this wasn't over, that he'd appeal, that he'd find a way out. But for now, for this moment, he was going to prison. Outside the courthouse, the women stood together in afternoon sunlight, barely believing what had just happened. We won, Mary whispered. We actually won. We did, Lena said, tears streaming freely now. We really did. They held each other and cried, not from sadness, but from relief so profound it hurt. Cole stood apart, watching them reclaim something that had been stolen, the right to be heard, believed, protected. Wright approached, looking exhausted but satisfied. Sentencing won't be for a week, but I'll be pushing for the maximum. 20 years if the judge is feeling generous to us. And if he's not, then 10. But either way, Hale's empire is done. His assets will be seized to pay restitution. His associates are already turning on each other to cut deals. Wright extended his hand. You did good work, Maddox. These women wouldn't have had a chance without you. Cole shook his hand. They didn't need me. They saved themselves. I just helped them get here. That night, there was something close to celebration. Anna bought wine from a shop that charged too much. Rachel and Sarah sang songs from their childhood. Mary laughed for the first time since Cole had met her. Danny fell asleep in a chair, exhausted, but smiling. Lena found Cole on the roof again, their spot for hard conversations and quiet moments. Thank you, she said simply. You already thanked me. Not enough. Never enough for what you've given us. She came closer. When this is over, when we go back to the ranch, what happens then? Cole looked at her. What do you want to happen? I want to stay. Danny and me, if that's all right with you. It's more than all right. I'll pay rent, work for my keep. I won't be a burden. Lena. He turned to face her fully. You're not a burden. He paused, trying to find words that didn't feel inadequate. You and Danny, you woke me up. Made me remember what it feels like to care about something other than getting through each day. So yeah, I want you to stay. Not as hired help, as family. Her eyes filled again. I don't deserve you. That's backward. I don't deserve you. He touched her face gently, fingers tracing the scar that had started all of this. This mark was supposed to brand you as property. But it became something else. It became evidence. Became the thing that brought all these women together, that brought Hale down. It became proof that survivors can fight back. Lena covered his hand with hers. It's still ugly. It's beautiful. Because you're still standing despite it. She kissed him then, properly this time. Not desperate like before the break-in, but certain. like she was claiming something she had every right to claim. When they finally pulled apart, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "We should probably talk about this," he said. "Eventually, but not tonight." She smiled. "Tonight, let's just be two people who survived something hard and came out the other side." "I can do that." They stood together under stars that seemed brighter than they had in years, holding each other while their makeshift family celebrated below. For the first time since burying Emma and Rose, Cole felt like he might actually have a future worth living. It wasn't perfect. Hale would appeal, the legal battles would continue, and trauma didn't just disappear because a jury said guilty. But it was a start. And sometimes, a start was all you needed. The celebration didn't last. 2 days after the verdict, while they were packing to return to the ranch, a hotel clerk knocked on Cole's door with a telegram. Cole read it twice, his stomach turning to lead. Lena saw his expression. "What is it?" "My ranch. There was a fire." The words hung in the air between them. Danny looked up from where he'd been organizing his few possessions, his face going pale. "How bad?" Lena asked. Cole handed her the telegram. It was from a neighbor 10 miles out, a man named Dutch Carmichael, who Cole traded with occasionally. The message was brief and brutal. "Main house destroyed. Bunkhouse damaged. Livestock scattered. Come quick." "It's Hale," Mary said from the doorway. She'd heard the commotion and come to investigate. "Even from jail, he's still hurting people." "We don't know that," Cole said, but his voice lacked conviction. Wright arrived within the hour, summoned by one of the women. He read the telegram and swore under his breath. "I'll contact the marshals. If Hale ordered this, it's witness intimidation. It'll add years to his sentence." "And it still won't bring back my house," Cole said flatly. "No, but it might prevent the next fire." Wright looked at the women gathered in the room. "You should all stay here for now, at least until we know what we're dealing with." Cole was already moving, throwing his few belongings into a saddlebag. "I'm going back, tonight." "That's exactly what they want," Wright said. "To draw you out, isolate you. I don't care what they want. That ranch is all I have left." He stopped, corrected himself. "Was all I had left. Now it's just ashes, apparently." Lena grabbed his arm. "Then we're coming with you." "No, you stay here where it's safe." "Safe?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "Nowhere's safe if Hale can reach us from a jail cell. At least at the ranch, we're on familiar ground." "She's right," Anna said. The other women nodded agreement. Cole looked at all of them, these survivors who'd already been through hell and somehow still had the courage to keep fighting. "This isn't your problem." "Yes, it is," Rachel said quietly. "You stood up for us. Now we stand up for you." Wright tried once more. "Be reasonable. If this was arson, whoever did it might still be around." "Then I'll deal with them." Cole strapped on his gun belt, checked the chambers. "I'm done running. I'm done letting Hale take things from me." They left Santa Fe at dawn, all 11 of them, plus Wright, who insisted on coming despite his protests about it being a bad idea. They made a strange caravan, Cole and Wright on horseback, the women in 2 rented wagons, Danny riding with Lena and watching the horizon like he expected bandits. The journey took 3 days. Nobody talked much. The victory of the trial felt distant now, overshadowed by what they'd find at journey's end. When they finally crested the ridge overlooking Cole's property, the damage was worse than the telegram had suggested. The main house was gone, just a blackened skeleton of timber and a chimney standing like a gravestone. The bunkhouse had partially survived. One wall collapsed, but the rest intact. The barn was untouched, which explained why some livestock had survived. Cole counted maybe 20 head of cattle where there should have been 60. Dutch Carmichael was waiting for them, sitting on his horse near the ruins. He was an old cowboy, weathered and honest, who'd been Cole's only real neighbor for years. "Sorry about this, Cole," Dutch said, dismounting. "I saw the smoke 2 nights ago, rode over, but it was already too far gone. Tried to round up your stock, but they'd scattered to hell and back." "Anyone still around when you got here?" "Nope, just fire." Dutch spat tobacco juice. "But I found this near the house." He handed Cole a piece of metal, a branding iron, still faintly warm when Dutch had found it. The brand was shaped like a handprint. Lena's breath caught when she saw it. Cole's hands clenched around the iron hard enough to hurt. "Hale's signature," Wright said quietly. He wanted you to know this was personal. Well, message received. Cole threw the branding iron into the ashes. Dutch, you see anything else? Tracks, riders, anything? 3 horses, heading west toward Redemption, moving fast. That's about all I could tell. Dutch looked at the women climbing down from the wagons. You got quite a crew here. Long story. I got time. But Cole wasn't listening anymore. He was walking through the ruins of his home, seeing 11 years of careful isolation burn to nothing. The porch where he'd sat every morning with coffee, the kitchen where Lena had cooked that first meal, the bedroom where he'd kept Emma and Rose's few belongings in a trunk he could never bring himself to open. That trunk was ash now. Everything was ash. Lena found him standing where the bedroom had been, staring at charred floorboards. I'm sorry, she said. Not your fault. Isn't it? If I'd never come here, if I'd just kept running, then you'd still be running, and Hale would still be hurting people. Cole turned to face her. This is on him, not you. Never you. What do we do now? Good question. Cole looked at the bunkhouse, calculating. Building's still mostly sound. We can patch it enough to sleep in, hunt for food, gather the stock that's left, rebuild. Rebuild? Wright approached, looking skeptical. Cole, you don't have the money for that. The civil suit Hale filed before his arrest, even with him in prison, his estate could still pursue it. You could lose this land entirely. Then I'll fight that too. With what? You can barely afford to eat, let alone hire lawyers. Cole knew Wright was right. Knew the smart play was to walk away, start over somewhere else, somewhere Hale's shadow didn't reach. But he was done with smart plays. I'm not leaving, he said simply. This is my land, my home. What's left of it anyway? I stay. The women gathered around, and Mary spoke what they were all thinking. Then we help. You don't have to. We know we don't have to, Anna interrupted. We want to. You gave us a chance to fight back. Now we give you a chance to rebuild. Rachel nodded. Besides, where else are we going? Back to hiding? Back to being scared? At least here we're together. Sarah, who rarely spoke up, added quietly, At least here we matter. Cole felt something crack in his chest. Not breaking, but opening. You all matter. Everywhere. Not just here. Maybe, Catherine said. She'd been quiet the whole journey, processing her own demons. But here, we know we matter. That's worth something. Dutch cleared his throat. I got lumber at my place, tools too. I can spare some supplies, help with the building. Got nothing better to do than watch my cattle get fat. Wright sighed, recognizing he'd lost this argument. I'll see what I can do about the legal situation. Maybe argue that Hale's criminal conviction invalidates his civil suit. It's a long shot, but I've made longer shots work. Thank you, Cole said to all of them. I don't deserve this. Stop saying that, Lena told him. You deserve exactly this. People who give a damn about you. They set up camp that night in and around the bunkhouse. Dutch rode home and returned with supplies, blankets, food, the lumber he'd promised. The women organized sleeping arrangements with the efficiency of people used to making do with less than nothing. Danny helped where he could, carrying water from the creek, gathering kindling. At one point, Cole found the boy sitting alone behind the barn, crying silently. Cole sat down beside him. You okay? Danny wiped his eyes quickly. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. The kid almost smiled at that. Every time we find somewhere safe, something bad happens. Ma and Pa's house got sick and they died. The boarding house where we lived, Hale came and took Aunt Lena. Now here. The fire. His voice cracked. Maybe we're bad luck. Cole put an arm around the small shoulders. You're not bad luck, Danny. You're just a kid who's had to deal with more than any kid should. That's not your fault. It's the world being cruel and adults being worse. Will it always be like this? No. Sometimes it'll be better, sometimes worse. But here's the thing. You keep going anyway. You keep trying, keep fighting, keep hoping. That's all any of us can do. Danny leaned against him. Mr. Maddox, can I tell you something? Sure. I'm glad Aunt Lena found you. Even with the fire and everything, I'm still glad. Cole's throat tightened. Yeah, kid, me too. They sat there until the dinner bell rang, actually just Mary banging a pot, and went to join the others. The next morning, they started rebuilding. Dutch brought more lumber and 3 of his ranch hands who worked in exchange for meals. The women divided tasks, some cooking, some hauling, some learning carpentry through trial and considerable error. Cole and Dutch framed the new house while Wright, surprisingly competent with a hammer, helped with the smaller structure they were building near the bunkhouse. It would be tight quarters once everything was done, but it would be home. The work was hard, and the days were long. Blisters formed and broke and formed again. Muscles ached from hauling timber and digging post holes. But there was something healing about it, building instead of running, creating instead of surviving. Anna turned out to have an eye for design. She sketched plans for the new house that made better use of space than Cole's old place had. Rachel and Sarah, with their seamstress skills, started making curtains and blankets from fabric Dutch's wife contributed. Mary took over the cooking and discovered she was good at it. Better than just surviving, actually good. Catherine spent most of her time organizing supplies and keeping detailed records. "Someone has to know what we have and what we need," she explained when Cole questioned the elaborate system of lists she'd created. "Chaos is how things fall apart." Lena worked everywhere, helping where needed, learning skills she'd never had reason to learn before. Watching her frame a wall or nail down roofing, Cole saw someone becoming something more than a victim or survivor, someone becoming whole. 2 weeks into the rebuild, a rider appeared. Cole saw him coming from a distance, single horseman, moving slow, not trying to hide. He called out a warning, and everyone stopped working, hands moving toward weapons they'd started keeping close. The rider was a stranger, young and nervous-looking, wearing a deputy's badge that looked too new to be trusted. "I'm looking for Cole Maddox," he called out while still a safe distance away. "You found him," Cole said, rifle resting casual but ready in his arms. "State your business." "I'm Deputy Frank Morrison from Redemption. New appointment, just last week." The kid dismounted carefully, hands visible. "I've got a message from Sheriff Webb." "Well, former Sheriff Webb. He resigned 4 days ago." That got everyone's attention. "Why?" Wright asked, stepping forward. "Because the town council voted to remove him. Turns out when people started really looking at his finances after Hale's trial, they found irregularities, a lot of them." Morrison pulled out papers. "Council's appointed me interim sheriff until territorial government sends someone permanent. They also wanted me to deliver this to Mr. Maddox." He handed Cole an envelope. Inside was a letter signed by the mayor, not Thompson, who'd been on Hale's payroll, but someone named Harrison, who Cole vaguely recognized as owning the dry goods store. The letter was formal but clear. The town of Redemption apologized for its failure to protect Lena Cross and others from Victor Hale's predations. The civil suit against Cole Maddox was being dropped by order of the territorial court, and as restitution for damages, the town was offering $500 from Hale's seized assets toward rebuilding the ranch. Cole read it twice. "This is real?" "Yes, sir. The money's being held at the bank pending your collection. Mr. Harrison wanted you to know that Redemption's changing, trying to change anyway. A lot of folks are ashamed of what happened, what they let happen." Morrison shifted uncomfortably. "I know that doesn't fix things, but it's something." "It's more than something," Wright said, reading over Cole's shoulder. "It's acknowledgement. That's rare after cases like this." Lena took the letter from Cole, read it herself. Her expression was hard to read. "They're sorry now. Where was this sorry when I was being branded? When other women were being trafficked?" "You're right," Morrison said quietly. "It's too late and too little. But some people are trying to make it right. The women who worked at the Golden Bell, the ones who didn't testify, they're being offered jobs and housing assistance. The saloon's being converted to a boarding house, run by women for women. It's not much, but it's a start." "And Webb?" Cole asked. "Where is he now?" "Jail. Territorial marshals arrested him on corruption charges. He'll stand trial next month." Morrison met Cole's eyes. "Things are changing in Redemption. Slowly, but they're changing." After Morrison left, carrying Cole's signature accepting the restitution, the group gathered to discuss what this meant. $500, Dutch said appreciatively. "That'll buy a lot of lumber and livestock." "It'll buy more than that," Anna said. "It buys legitimacy, acknowledgement that what happened to us wasn't our fault." "Does it change anything?" Sarah asked softly.
Really change anything? Yes and no, Wright answered. It doesn't erase the trauma or bring back lost time, but systemic change has to start somewhere. Usually it starts with people getting angry enough to demand accountability. We made them angry, Mary realized, by testifying, by refusing to stay quiet. We forced them to look at what they'd ignored. And now they're trying to make amends, Rachel added. Whether we accept those amends is up to us. They all looked at Lena. She was the first victim, the one who'd taken the biggest risk by staying when she could have run. I don't forgive them, Lena said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but I'll take their money and their apology and use it to build something better. That's close enough to justice for now. The work continued with renewed energy. $500 meant they could buy proper materials, hire skilled labor for the complicated parts, replace the livestock they'd lost. The new house took shape faster than Cole had dared hope, but progress brought new complications. 3 weeks into the rebuild, Catherine received a letter from the territorial capital. The prosecution wanted her to testify again, this time at Webb's trial, and potentially at trials for other officials on Hale's payroll. I can't, she told the group that evening. I barely survived testifying once. I can't do it again and again. You don't have to, Wright assured her. Your testimony at Hale's trial is on record. They can use that. But it would be stronger if I appeared in person. I know how this works. Catherine's hands shook as she folded the letter. Every trial means reliving it, means being cross-examined and doubted and torn apart all over again. Then don't do it, Cole said. You've given enough. But if I don't, those men might walk. Webb, the judge, the marshal, all of them might escape consequences because I was too weak to testify. You're not weak, Lena said firmly. You're human. There's a difference. Anna leaned forward. What if we all testified? Shared the burden so it's not just on you. You weren't there for Webb's crimes. Your testimony wouldn't be relevant. No, but we could be there. In the courtroom, supporting you, showing the jury that you're not alone, that your story is part of a bigger truth. Anna looked around the group. We've come this far together. Why stop now? One by one, the women agreed. They'd go to Webb's trial, sit in the courtroom, be visible proof that Hale's empire had destroyed real lives. Wright arranged the logistics. The trial was set for 6 weeks out, giving them time to finish the most critical rebuilding. Cole and Dutch would stay behind to continue work and watch the ranch. The women would go with Wright to the territorial capital. Danny, predictably, didn't want to be left behind. I want to go with Aunt Lena, he insisted. It's not a place for kids, Lena told him gently. Neither was running from Hale. Neither was watching our house burn. But I was there anyway. His small jaw set stubbornly. I want to see the bad men face consequences. Cole knelt down to eye level. I need you here, Danny. Need someone I trust to help Dutch and me finish the house. Think you can handle that? Danny wavered, torn between wanting to protect his aunt and wanting to be trusted with real responsibility. I can handle it, he finally said. I know you can. The night before the women left, Lena and Cole sat on the partially completed porch of the new house. It was smaller than the old one but sturdier, built with better materials and harder-won knowledge. I'm scared, Lena admitted. Not of testifying this time, of what comes after. Once all the trials are done, once Hale and Webb and everyone else is locked up, what then? Who do we become when we're not fighting anymore? Cole thought about that. I don't know, but I think we get to choose. That's the whole point of this, isn't it? Taking back the choice that was stolen from us. What will you choose? To keep building. This ranch, this life. To be someone Danny can look up to. To be someone you can... He paused, uncertain. Someone you can count on. I already count on you. I mean for the long term, for whatever comes next. Lena was quiet for a moment. Are you asking me something, Cole Maddox? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not good at this. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated with his own inability to find the right words. I just know that when I think about the future now, you're in it. You and Danny both. And I don't want that to change. It won't change. She took his hand. Unless you want it to. I don't? Then it won't. She leaned against him. We'll figure out the rest as we go. They sat like that until the stars came out, making plans that felt almost like promises. The women left at dawn. Cole, Dutch, and Danny watched them go, the wagons raising dust as they headed toward the territorial capital and whatever justice still needed claiming. "Strange crew you've got yourself," Dutch observed. "Yeah, they are. Good people, though. Brave. The bravest I've ever met." Danny tugged on Cole's sleeve. "Can we start building now? I want the house done before Aunt Lena gets back." "That's going to take more than 6 weeks, kid." "Then we better get started." The work became a routine. Up at dawn, building until dark, falling into exhausted sleep, and doing it again. Danny proved surprisingly helpful, learning quickly and working without complaint. Dutch's hands rotated in, teaching Cole and Danny techniques that made the work faster and stronger. In the evenings, Cole would read to Danny from the few books that had survived the fire. The kid was hungry for stories, for worlds beyond the hard reality he'd lived through. "Why do stories always end happy?" Danny asked one night. "They don't always. Some end sad. But the good ones end happy. The hero wins, the bad guy loses, everything works out." Cole considered this. "I think people need to believe that's possible, that fighting for something good actually matters, even if real life doesn't always work that way." "Does it work that way sometimes? In real life?" "Sometimes. If you fight hard enough and get lucky enough." Danny thought about this. "Are we lucky?" "Yeah, kid. I think we are." Letters came from Santa Fe. The trial was going well. Webb's defense was crumbling under the weight of evidence and testimony. More officials were being implicated as the investigation widened. The entire corrupt network that had enabled Hale was being systematically dismantled. "They're calling it the redemption trials," Lena wrote in her careful script, "because that's where it started, and because that's what people want. Redemption for the town, for the system, for failing so badly." Wright says it's becoming a landmark case. Prosecutors from other territories are watching, learning. This might actually change how these cases are handled everywhere. Cole read the letter to Danny, who listened with that serious expression that made him seem older than 7. "That's good, right?" Danny asked. "That it's changing things?" "Yeah, it's real good." "Will Aunt Lena come home when it's over?" "Yes, she promised." "And then what?" Cole looked at the house taking shape around them, walls rising, roof going on, windows being fitted. A home being built from ashes and stubbornness. "Then we live," he said. "We just live." 6 weeks turned to 7, then 8. The trials expanded as more victims came forward, more evidence surfaced. Wright sent word that they'd be delayed another month at least. Cole and Danny kept building. The main house was nearly complete, just finishing work left. Dutch helped them start on a larger bunkhouse, one that could comfortably sleep 8. They dug a better well, repaired fences, rounded up more scattered cattle. The ranch was coming back to life. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late autumn, the wagons returned. Cole saw them coming from the ridge and felt his heart kick against his ribs. Danny whooped and ran toward them, and Cole followed at a more measured pace that still qualified as running. The women climbed down, exhausted but smiling. Lena spotted Cole, and something in her expression made the 8 weeks apart feel both endless and insignificant. She walked to him, and he pulled her close, not caring who was watching. "You're back," he said stupidly. "I'm back." She looked past him at the ranch. "You built all this?" "Had help. And a lot of time." The house stood complete, not fancy, but solid and weatherproof and ready for winter. The bunkhouse was finished too, larger than before. The barn had been repaired and the corrals rebuilt. "It's beautiful," Lena whispered. "It's home," Cole corrected. That night they gathered around a proper table in the new house, all of them cramped together but nobody minding. Dutch had brought whiskey, and they toasted to trials won, and homes rebuilt, and futures that felt almost possible. Wright gave them the final tally. Webb was sentenced to 15 years. Judge Carstairs got 10. The territorial marshal, 8. A dozen other officials received sentences ranging from fines to jail time. "And Hale?" Cole asked. 25 years, maximum sentence. He'll die in prison." Wright raised his glass. "To justice. Slow, imperfect, but finally delivered."
They drank to that. Later, after the others had gone to bed, Lena and Cole stood on the new porch watching stars that seemed close enough to touch. "What do we do now?" Lena asked. It was the same question she'd asked before she left. Cole's answer had changed. Now we stop asking that question. We stop waiting for the next disaster, the next fight. We just live. That's all. We just live. Lena turned to face him. "Cole Maddox, are you asking me to marry you?" He hadn't been, but now that she said it out loud, it felt right. "Yeah, I guess I am. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "It's the only proposal you've ever heard." "True," she smiled. "But I'm still saying yes." They kissed on that porch under those stars, and for the first time in longer than either could remember, they felt something close to peace. Inside, Danny had woken and was watching from the window. He saw them kiss, saw them hold each other like they might never let go, and he smiled. Tomorrow they'd talk about weddings and futures and all the complicated things that came with building a life together. But tonight, they just stood there, two people who'd survived hell and somehow found each other on the other side. It wasn't a perfect ending. The scars remained, physical and otherwise. The nightmares would come sometimes. The fear would resurface when strangers rode up, or when memories hit unexpectedly. But they'd face it together, all of them, the makeshift family they'd built from broken pieces and stubborn hope. And that, Cole thought, was more than enough. The proposal wasn't official until Danny approved it. Cole found the boy the next morning in the barn, brushing down one of the horses with more concentration than the task required. The kid had gotten quiet again, the way he did when his mind was working through something too big to say out loud. "Your aunt and I talked last night," Cole started. Danny kept brushing. "I know, I saw." "You were spying?" "I was making sure you weren't leaving." The admission came out small and honest. "People leave a lot. I wanted to make sure you weren't one of them." Cole sat down on a hay bale, feeling the weight of that simple statement. "I'm not leaving, Danny. Not planning to, anyway." "That's what my pa said before he got sick." "Yeah. Sometimes life doesn't care about plans." Cole watched the boy work for a moment. "But I'm asking your aunt to marry me. Officially, I mean. And before I do that proper, I wanted to make sure you were okay with it." Danny finally stopped brushing, turned to look at Cole with those old soul eyes. "Why do you need my permission?" "Because you're part of this family. Your opinion matters." "I'm just a kid." "You're the most important kid I know." Cole leaned forward. "If you don't want this to happen, if you'd rather it was just you and Lena somewhere else, I'll understand. I'll help you get wherever you need to go." Danny considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. "Do you love her?" "Yes." "Does she love you?" "I think so. Hope so." "Will you take care of her? And me?" "With everything I have." Danny set down the brush. "Then it's okay. You can marry her." He paused. "Can I call you Pa?" Cole's throat went tight. "If you want to." "I want to. My real pa would have liked you, I think. You're stubborn like he was." "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is." Danny came over, stood in front of Cole, looking uncertain. Can I hug you?" Cole pulled the boy into his arms, held him tight, while Danny clung like he was afraid to let go. They stayed like that until the kid's breathing evened out and the tension left his small frame. "We're going to be okay," Cole said quietly. "All of us. I promise." Danny nodded against his chest. "I believe you." The wedding was small and practical like everything else they did. No church, no fancy dress, just a territorial judge who rode out to the ranch on a Saturday afternoon and made it official while everyone they cared about watched from the porch. Lena wore a simple blue dress that Anna had sewn. Cole wore his best shirt, which wasn't saying much. Danny stood between them holding the wooden horse carving like a talisman. "Do you, Cole Maddox, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Lena Cross, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Lena looked at Cole, at Danny, at the ranch they'd built from ashes and stubbornness. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me by the territory, I pronounce you husband and wife." The kiss was quick and slightly awkward, both of them out of practice and self-conscious with an audience. But it was real, and that mattered more than grace. Dutch brought out whiskey. Mary had baked a cake that was slightly lopsided but tasted perfect. They celebrated into the evening, telling stories and making toasts and pretending for a few hours that the world was exactly as kind as it should be. Later, after the others had gone to bed, Cole and Lena sat on their porch. It was theirs now, officially, and watched the stars. "Mrs. Maddox," Cole said, testing how it sounded. "That's going to take some getting used to. You could keep your name if you want." "No, I want yours. I want to be someone different than who I was." She touched the scar on her face, a habit she'd never quite broken. "I want to be the woman who survived, not the woman who was marked." "You're both. You get to be both." "I know. But some days I want to forget the second part." They sat in comfortable silence until Lena spoke again. "The other women are leaving. Did they tell you?" Cole nodded. He'd known it was coming. "Where are they going?" "Different places. Mary's going back to Copper Ridge, taking a job at the boarding house there. Anna's heading to California with her sister. Rachel and Sarah want to try Denver, see if they can start a seamstress business." She paused. "Catherine's staying in Santa Fe. Wright offered her a job helping with other cases, working with victims who need someone who understands." "That's good. She'll be good at that." "They all said they'd come back for visits. I don't know if they will." "They will. Your family to them. People come back for family." Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. "When did you get so optimistic?" "I'm not optimistic. I'm just less convinced everything's going to hell." She laughed at that, soft and genuine. The women left over the next week, one by one. Each departure was hard, hugs that lasted too long, promises to write, tears that fell despite everyone's best efforts to stay strong. Mary was the last to go. She stood by the wagon that would take her to Copper Ridge, looking at the ranch like she was memorizing it. "This place saved my life," she said to Lena. "Not just because it was safe, because it was the first place I mattered in years." "You matter everywhere," Lena told her. "You just couldn't see it before." "Maybe." Mary smiled, sad but real. "Take care of that family of yours. You earned them." "You earned a good life, too. Go find it." They hugged one more time, and then Mary was gone, leaving dust and empty space behind. The ranch felt quieter after that, just Cole, Lena, and Danny rattling around in buildings made for more people. But the quiet wasn't lonely. It was peaceful, the kind of silence that came from safety rather than isolation. They fell into routines. Cole worked the ranch with Danny as his shadow, teaching the boy everything he knew about cattle and horses and surviving on hard land. Lena kept the house and started a garden, coaxing vegetables from dirt that didn't want to give them up. In the evenings, they'd eat together, then sit on the porch while Danny practiced reading from books Wright had sent as a wedding gift. 3 months after the wedding, Lena realized she was pregnant. She told Cole while they were mending fence on the far end of the property, Danny helping Dutch round up strays a mile away. "I think I'm going to have a baby," she said, voice careful and uncertain. Cole's hands went still on the wire he'd been stringing. "You think, or you know?" "I'm pretty sure. All the signs are there. I wanted to tell you before I was certain, in case you needed time to get used to the idea. Time to get used to being a father again." Cole set down his tools, turned to face her fully. "How do you feel about it?" "Terrified. Excited. Worried I'll be a terrible mother." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Worried something will go wrong, that I'll lose it like I've lost everything else." "You won't. You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise I'll be here through all of it. The fear, the worry, the joy when it comes." He pulled her close. "We're in this together, remember?" Lena held on to him tight. "A baby, Cole. After everything we've been through, we're bringing new life into this world." "Yeah, we are." And for the first time since Emma and Rose died, the thought of being a father didn't feel like drowning. It felt like hope. Danny took the news with typical seriousness. "So I'm going to have a brother or sister?" "In about 6 months, yeah," Lena told him. "Will you still have room for me?" "Always." "You're not being replaced, Danny. You're getting added to." Cole ruffled the boy's hair. "Think you can handle being a big brother?"
Danny considered this. Will I have to teach them stuff? Probably. And protect them if someone's mean. That's part of the job. Okay, I can do that. He paused. Can we name it something normal? Not like Cornelius or Gertrude or something weird? Lena laughed. We'll take that under consideration. The pregnancy progressed without major complications, though Lena was sick most mornings and exhausted by evenings. Dutch's wife, Margaret, rode over regularly to check on her, bringing folk remedies and practical advice from raising 6 kids of her own. First babies are always the hardest, Margaret said, kneading bread dough while Lena watched, learning. But you're strong. You'll manage. I don't feel strong. Nobody does. That's the secret. We're all just pretending and hoping we don't break. Margaret smiled. But you've survived things that would have killed weaker women. Birth is just another battle. You'll win this one too. As winter set in, Cole started preparing for the baby's arrival. He built a cradle from wood Dutch provided, sanding it smooth so there wouldn't be any splinters. Lena sewed blankets and small clothes from fabric Margaret had saved from her own children's infancy. Danny helped where he could, painting the cradle a soft yellow, because Lena said that worked for either a boy or girl. What was it like? Danny asked Cole one evening while they worked. Having a baby the first time? Cole's hand stilled on the cradle. He didn't talk about Rose much. It still hurt too much most days. Terrifying, he finally said, but also the best thing I'd ever experienced. Holding this tiny person and knowing she was part of you, part of your family, knowing you'd do anything to keep her safe. Did you keep her safe? I tried, but sometimes trying isn't enough. Danny nodded, understanding more than a 7-year-old should. Are you scared this time? Yeah. Scared something will go wrong. Scared I'll fail again. Cole forced himself to keep working. But I'm doing it anyway. That's what being scared means, doing it anyway. That's what Aunt Lena says too, about being brave. Your aunt's smarter than me. I know, Danny grinned. But you're pretty smart too, for an adult. The baby came on a cold February morning, 2 weeks earlier than expected, and in the middle of a snowstorm that made getting help impossible. Lena's water broke just after dawn. Cole sent Danny to Dutch's place to fetch Margaret while he tried not to panic, and Lena breathed through contractions that were coming faster than seemed safe. It's too early, Lena gasped between pains. Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Babies come when they want to come. Cole tried to sound confident despite having no idea if that was true. Margaret will be here soon. But the storm worsened, and Margaret didn't come. Hours passed with just Cole and Lena, him trying to remember everything he'd learned from Emma's labor, her trying not to scream and terrify him more than he already was. I can't do this, Lena said during a particularly bad contraction. It hurts too much. I can't. Yes, you can. You've survived worse than this. This is different. I know, but you're stronger than you think. You've always been stronger than you think. The labor lasted 8 hours. 8 hours of pain and fear, and Cole feeling completely helpless. But finally, as the storm started to break, Lena gave one final push and a baby's cry filled the room. Cole caught the infant, slippery and small and perfect, and wrapped her in clean blankets with shaking hands. Is it okay? Lena asked weakly. Is the baby okay? She's perfect. Cole's voice cracked. We have a daughter. He placed the baby in Lena's arms, watching as his wife, looked at their child with wonder and exhaustion and overwhelming love. She's so small, Lena whispered. She'll grow. What should we name her? Cole thought about Rose, buried far away under cottonwood trees, thought about carrying that grief for 11 years, letting it define him. Emma, he said quietly, if that's okay with you. Lena looked up at him, understanding what he was offering. Emma Rose Maddox. After both of them. Yeah, after both of them. Margaret arrived an hour later with Danny, the storm having finally cleared enough to make the journey. She checked both mother and baby, pronounced them healthy despite the difficult birth, and helped clean up the aftermath. Danny met his sister with cautious curiosity, touching her tiny hand with one finger. She's really small, he observed. You were small once too, Margaret told him. Was I this weird looking? Babies are supposed to look weird. They grow into their faces. Margaret smiled,
But this one's going to be pretty. You can tell already. Danny peered closer at Emma Rose, who was sleeping peacefully despite all the fuss around her. I guess she's okay. For a baby. High praise, Cole said, grinning. That night, with Lena and the baby sleeping and Danny curled up on a bedroll nearby, Cole sat on the porch despite the cold. Dutch found him there, brought him whiskey. Congratulations, Dutch said, sitting down. Girl babies are the best. They don't break as much stuff as boys. I'm terrified, Cole admitted. I failed my first daughter. Let her die. What if I fail this one too? You didn't fail Rose? Fever killed her. That's not your fault any more than rain is your fault or winter is your fault. Dutch poured them both drinks. But I get the fear. Every parent has it. The terror that we'll mess up so bad our kids pay for it.
How do you live with it? By doing your best and forgiving yourself when your best isn't enough. By loving them hard enough that they know they matter, even when everything else goes wrong. Dutch raised his glass. To Emma Rose. May she have her mother's strength and her father's stubbornness. They drank to that as snow started falling again, soft and clean, covering the world in white. The weeks after Emma's birth were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. Lena recovered slowly, learning to nurse while managing the demands of an infant who seemed determined to never sleep at the same time as her parents. Danny adapted to his role as big brother with surprising enthusiasm. He'd sit with Emma for hours, talking to her about ranch life and horses, and all the things he'd teach her when she was old enough. She can't understand you, Lena pointed out. She will eventually. I'm just giving her practice. Cole watched his makeshift family grow into something real, something permanent, and felt the last pieces of his broken heart finally start healing. But peace never lasted forever. 6 months after Emma's birth, Wright showed up at the ranch unannounced. His expression told Cole this wasn't a social visit. What's wrong? Cole asked, leading him inside. Wright accepted coffee, drank half of it before speaking. Victor Hale is dead. The words hung in the air. Lena, nursing Emma nearby, went very still. How? Cole asked. Prison fight, officially. Another inmate stabbed him in the yard. Wright set down his cup. But there's more to it. The inmate was someone Hale had testified against in exchange for a reduced sentence. Someone with connections to the same trafficking network Hale was part of. So they killed him to keep him quiet, Lena said. That's the theory. We'll never prove it. The killer's not talking, and everyone else claims they didn't see anything. Wright looked at them both. I wanted you to hear it from me before word spreads. Wanted to make sure you knew it was over. Really over. Cole felt something release in his chest. Tension he'd been carrying for so long he'd forgotten it was there. He can't hurt anyone else. No, he can't. Wright smiled slightly. And because of what you all did, because of the trials and the testimony, territorial government is implementing new protections for trafficking victims. New laws about debt bondage and forced labor. It won't stop everything, but it'll help. People will remember, Lena said quietly. Other women in situations like mine. They'll remember that speaking up worked, that fighting back is possible. That's the real victory, Wright agreed. Not just stopping one evil man, but showing others that evil men can be stopped. After Wright left, Cole and Lena sat together on the porch. Emma slept between them, tiny and peaceful. Danny was in the barn, teaching the horses tricks they had no interest in learning. How do you feel? Cole asked. About Hale being dead? Lena thought about it. I don't know. Relief, mostly. Some guilt for feeling relieved. Some anger that he got to escape justice by dying. She touched Emma's soft hair. But mostly I feel free. Like the last chain holding me to that time finally broke. Good. You deserve to be free. So do you. They sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. In the distance, Danny's voice carried on the wind, talking to horses who pretended to listen. 2 years passed in the quiet way that good years do. Emma grew from infant to toddler, learning to walk by pulling herself up on anything stable enough to hold her weight. Danny shot up half a foot and started helping with the harder ranch work, proving himself capable beyond his years. Lena's scar faded to silver, less angry-looking though still visible. She'd stopped trying to hide it.
Sometimes women would visit the ranch, survivors who'd heard about the trials, who needed to see proof that fighting back was possible. Lena would talk with them, share her story, offer what help and hope she could. She became a voice for others the way Catherine had, writing letters to territorial officials about needed reforms, testifying when new cases arose, refusing to let her survival be silent. Cole watched her transform from victim to survivor to advocate, and loved her more with each evolution. The other women kept their promises. Mary visited twice, bringing news from Copper Ridge and gifts for the kids. Anna sent letters from California, describing her new life running a boarding house for immigrant women. Rachel and Sarah's seamstress business was thriving in Denver. Catherine had become one of the territory's most effective victim advocates, her own survival lending weight to her words. On a warm spring evening 3 years after their wedding, Cole and Lena sat on their porch watching Danny teach Emma how to ride. The girl was fearless, laughing as Danny led the horse in circles. "She's going to be trouble," Lena observed. "Takes after her mother." "I was never trouble. I was a model citizen." Cole laughed. "You committed arson, theft, and about 6 other crimes escaping hail." "All perfectly justified," she smiled. "Besides, Sarah helped with the fire. That makes it shared trouble." They watched their children in comfortable silence. Emma fell off the horse, not far, just a tumble onto soft ground. Danny immediately checked to make sure she was okay, then helped her back up. "He's good with her," Cole said. "He's a good kid. You raised him right." "We raised him right." Cole took Lena's hand. "I've been thinking about something. That's usually dangerous. I want to adopt him, officially. Make him a Maddox legally, not just in practice." Cole looked at her. "I know he remembers his real parents, and I'm not trying to replace them, but I want him to know he belongs here, permanently." Lena's eyes filled. "He'd like that. I'd like that." "Then I'll talk to Wright. Get the papers drawn up." That night they told Danny. His reaction was typically understated, a nod, a quiet, "Okay," and then a tight hug that said everything words couldn't. "Does this mean I have to take your last name?" Danny asked. "If you want to," Cole said. "You can keep Cross if you'd rather." Danny thought about it. "I want to be a Maddox, but I want to keep Cross too. Danny Cross Maddox, is that allowed?" "We'll make it allowed." The adoption was finalized that summer. Judge Harrison came out personally to sign the papers, the same judge who'd married Cole and Lena. "You've built something good here," Harrison told them, looking at the ranch, at the family. "Something that matters." "We just tried not to quit," Cole said. "That's all anyone can do. Try not to quit." 5 years after Lena first appeared at Cole's gate, the ranch was thriving. They'd expanded the herd, hired 2 hands to help with the work, built an addition onto the house when another baby, a boy they named Matthew, after Lena's brother, arrived unexpectedly. Danny was 13 now, tall and capable, talking about maybe going to school in Denver when he was older. Emma was 5, wild and curious, following her brother everywhere despite his protests that she was annoying. Matthew was 2, just learning to talk and already showing signs of being as stubborn as both his parents. The house was always loud, always chaotic, always full of life. One evening, Cole found Lena in the room that had become her office. She was writing letters, to legislators, to other survivors, to anyone who would listen about the continued need for reform and protection. "You ever get tired of fighting?" he asked. "Every day, but I get tired of staying quiet faster." She set down her pen. "There's a woman in Silver City who needs help. Her situation is almost exactly like mine was. Fake debt, powerful man, nowhere to turn. She wrote to me asking what to do." "What did you tell her?" "That she's not alone. That fighting back is possible. That there are people who will help if she's brave enough to ask." Lena looked at him. "I'm thinking about going there. Meeting with her, maybe helping her file charges." "You want me to come?" "No. Stay here with the kids, but I need to do this. Need to show her the same thing Catherine and Mary and the others showed me. That survival is possible. That life after trauma exists." Cole pulled her up from the desk, held her close. "When do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning. I'll be back in a week." "Be careful." "Always am." She smiled against his chest. "Well, mostly." Lena left at dawn, taking one of the horses and a pack with supplies. Cole watched her ride toward Silver City and whatever battles waited there, knowing she'd come back because she always did. Because this was home, and home meant something now. The years continued to pass. Danny did go to Denver for school, studying law because he wanted to help people the way Wright had helped them. Emma proved to be brilliant with animals, gentle in ways that made even the most skittish horses trust her. Matthew was quiet and thoughtful, more interested in books than ranching, but no less valued for it. Cole aged into his 50s, his hair going silver and his joints complaining on cold mornings. Lena aged beside him, the scar on her face becoming just another part of her story rather than the defining feature. They grew old together, building a life from the broken pieces they'd both brought to that first meeting. 10 years after Victor Hale's death, Lena was invited to speak at the territorial capital about victim advocacy and legal reform. She stood before a room full of lawmakers and survivors, telling her story one more time. "I was marked as property," she said, touching her face where the scar had faded to barely visible. "Branded like cattle. Told I belonged to someone else. And for a long time I believed it. Believed I was less than human, less than worthy of protection or justice. But then I met people who refused to let me believe that lie. A rancher who stood up when he could have looked away. Women who shared their stories and their strength. A prosecutor who fought for us when it would have been easier to let us disappear. They showed me that speaking up matters, that fighting back is possible. The laws you're considering today won't end trafficking or abuse. Evil will always find new ways to hurt the vulnerable. But these laws will make it harder. They'll give victims more protection, more resources, more hope. And hope, I've learned, is the thing that keeps us fighting even when the fight seems impossible. So I ask you, not for me because I've already survived, but for the women and men who are suffering right now in situations like the one I escaped. Give them hope, give them protection, give them a chance to become more than their trauma. The room erupted in applause. The laws passed unanimously. That night back at the hotel, Lena found a letter waiting for her. The handwriting was shaky but determined. "My name is Sarah Miller. I saw you speak today. I need help. Please." Lena sat down at the desk and started writing back. Because that's what survivors did. They helped each other. They built networks of support that couldn't be broken by one powerful man or one system's failure. They kept fighting, kept speaking up, kept refusing to be silent. 15 years after that first morning when Lena appeared at Cole's gate, the ranch held a gathering. All of them came back. Mary from Copper Ridge, Anna from California, Rachel and Sarah from Denver, Catherine from Santa Fe. Wright made the trip too, older now, and retired from prosecution but still sharp as ever. They sat around a table in the expanded house, sharing stories and laughter and memories of battles fought and won. "Remember when we thought we couldn't beat Hale?" Mary said. "Remember how scared we were?" "I'm still scared sometimes," Anna admitted. "Still have nightmares about those days." "But we're also still here," Rachel pointed out, "living lives we built ourselves. That counts for something." "It counts for everything," Lena said quietly. Later, after the others had gone to bed, Cole and Lena sat on their porch one more time. Emma was married now, living on her own ranch with a husband who treated her like she was made of something precious. Danny was practicing law in Santa Fe, working alongside Catherine on advocacy cases. Matthew was studying medicine, wanting to heal people the way Doc Morrison had tried to heal others. "We did good," Cole said, looking at the life they'd built. "Didn't we?" "Yeah, we did real good." "You got any regrets?" Lena thought about it. "I regret that it took trauma to bring us together, that so many women had to suffer before anyone listened, that change came so slow and cost so much." She took his hand. "But I don't regret staying, don't regret fighting, don't regret any of this." "Me neither." They sat in the darkness, two people who'd found each other when they both needed saving, who'd built a family from broken pieces and stubborn hope, who'd proven that sometimes, if you fought hard enough and refused to give up, justice actually prevailed. The stars came out above them, bright and constant and infinite. In the house behind them, their grandchildren were sleeping, Emma's twins visiting for the week. In the barn, the horses settled for the night. Across the territory, in cities and small towns and isolated ranches, other survivors were finding their voices, speaking up, refusing to be silent. The work wasn't finished. It would never be finished. But it was happening, spreading outward from that first act of defiance when Lena chose to stay instead of run, when Cole chose to fight instead of hide. "What are you thinking about?" Lena asked. Cole squeezed her hand. "I'm thinking about that morning you showed up here, how I almost sent you away, how different everything would be if I had. But you didn't." "No, I didn't," he smiled. "Best decision I never quite made." "We made it together. All of it. We made it together." They sat there until the night grew cold, until age and exhaustion sent them inside to the warmth of their home. And if the house creaked with old wood and the scars of past fires, well, that just meant it had stories to tell, that it had survived, just like them. The mark that had once meant ownership became something else entirely, became proof that silence could be broken, that power could be challenged, that victims could become survivors, and survivors could become voices for others. Became proof that sometimes, against all odds, the broken could be made whole again. Not perfect, never perfect, but whole enough. And that, in the end, was everything.